Are you going to address accountability for whitelisted streamers from Sean the Black? What happened? What happened? What is this?
We, as the like left of center movement, including liberals, have spent the last
What
8
happened?
months.
What is this? Don't sludge Sean the Black chat. Yeah, no, Sean the Black is the GOAT. What is it? What is chat talking about? What happened? What is this? What's going on? What's the issue? It's about Lolo. Listen to the clip, you dork. Sure.
Radically changing everything about the way we approach politics for straight white dudes. We've radically changed the way that we approach politics as a whole. It's not really 6 years. No, but like we've specifically named it, right? We've named it for the past 8 months since the election. They're saying, okay, we are only going to hyper fixate and focus on only how we attract straight white men, young straight white boys. And people got mad at the very clear like assumption, the idea of maybe talking to black people. The idea of talking to black people, right, was so radically and fundamentally off-putting to white leftists, but they were totally fine with radically restructuring the entirety of the media ecosystem around politics, around straight white men.
I agree with this, but the one caveat I have is that white supremacy is such a powerful force that I think like young black and brown kids, young black and brown men also literally positively respond to white supremacist like adjacent or white centric content in a really devastating way. This is part of the reason why. Wait, is he calling you out? No, he's not calling me out. What do you mean? I don't do this anyway. When have I ever literally been like, no, why don't we care about the feelings of white men? I don't do that. I think that is the reason why, as a matter of fact, that's the reason why the Trump movement has become this like much more diverse movement. Like American fascism is not as segmented by racial boundaries as we would normally expect it to be, if that makes sense. In some ways, it still obviously is, because like, yes, black people don't fuck with Trump, broadly speaking, right? But there is certainly a diversity element that did not exist before, I think. And I would go so far as to say it did not even ever exist in any other historic fascist movements. Like, you don't have just like some collaborators. You just straightforwardly have loyal soldiers, loyal servants of white supremacy that happen to not be white. I mean, the most famous neo-Nazi right now is a Hispanic dude, right? Sure, white is a social construct, it's completely made up. But the most famous neo-Nazi in America currently is literally a dude whose last name is Fuentes, okay? Nicolas Fuentes. Like, that's crazy. Yeah, you got Dinesh D'Souza. You got Kanye West trying to do his thing. I don't know. I mean, he's not getting a lot of, I don't know where he is, but it's just, it's not like the David Dukes of the world any longer, if that makes sense. Like, it's the whole, yeah, Stone Toss is Puerto Rican. Stone Toss is a very famous Nazi comic, right? He's fucking Puerto Rican. Like, it's just, in a weird way, white supremacy has become more diverse as a direct consequence of how diverse America is. But on the inverse of this, like, people do respond to white-centric content and white-centric commentary, not only because the definitional socio-political construct of whiteness is constantly expanding to encompass that comfortable 60 to 66% of the population, no matter what, and therefore more and more people bracket under the banner of whiteness, but also at the same time, I think people just like respond to that kind of edgy humor more positively. This doesn't mean that you should lean into it. This doesn't mean that you should, create a permission structure around like being horrible little bullies to people on the virtue of someone's the color of their skin or their ethnicity, their background. Of course not. But I think it's important to still ultimately recognize like where, like when we're messaging, because that's what we do here, right? Myself, Sean the Black, everyone does this. That's the only caveat I would say is that like it's unfortunately an unavoidable force that you have to be cognizant of. And I mean, this is silly for me to say to a young black man. He already is cognizant of this. Regardless, he lives it every day.
Totally fine with that. Legacy media throwing away everything that they've known to be like, we need specifically and primarily a Joe Rogan of the left to talk to only straight white men, and everybody's fine with that. Everybody.
See, that's the reason why I added the caveat, because like Joe Rogan's audience, I'm willing to bet, is fairly diverse, right? It's not just straight white men. Like, it might be like straight white male centric politics, but it's not. It's not. It's just like there's hella Hispanics in there. There's hella Latinos in there. There's black people in there. You know what I mean? It's definitely more on a, it's definitely more divided on the gender side than it is like racial politics. American politics is so busted, man. It's so busted. It's so broken. It's hard. It's hard to put a finger on it. But yeah, no, I'm not missing the point Sean is making. I agree with the point that Sean is making. The point that he's making is the exact same point that I made as well in the aftermath of the 2016 election, when they did this exact same thing in the aftermath of the 2016 election, where everyone was like, what happened to the white working class vote? Where are the white working class? Why did the white working class go and vote for Donald Trump? Blah, 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 blah. We got to win these white working class people back. It's like, it's stupid.
He's fine with the journey to find the one piece of politics, which is how do we create the Joe Rogan of the left? Nobody has any problem with that. But when you have just the slight assumption, when you have the notion, the mere suggestion of, hey, let's talk to black people, people act like you killed fucking God. Like, what are we talking about here? Are we insane? And that's not indicative of white supremacy?
Hispanic dudes possibly, but not many black dudes fuck with Joe Rogan. No, black dudes fuck with Joe Rogan too. Dude, everybody fucks with Joe Rogan.
Nobody bats an eye at, yes, we need to radically shift how we talk about media as a whole to center straight white men. But when it comes to FD being like, hey, let's go to church and talk to black people, people are like, how dare you? How dare you?
It's ironic. Oh, wait, why would people think I'm like disagreeing with Sean on this? This is literally what I've been saying nonstop. This was a big weakness for Bernie Sanders. This is something that I also personally recognize. You cannot expect people to literally listen to your message and understand it and internalize it just on the basis of your message being good or your policies being good. You got to go to where people are. You got to talk to people directly. Okay? This is certainly a weakness on the left. It's something that I talked about in the aftermath of the Zoran analysis and the Zoran victory within the Democratic Party primaries, as a matter of fact. If you recall, I said one of the things that Zoran needs to do is, and one of the things that the DSA needs to do, one of the things that like a left movement needs to do is to tap into young black men in particular who already feel rudderless, who feel discouraged about their future within the Democratic Party, and try to get them to participate in the political process, but from a left position. You know, like this is a real problem. This is a real issue. You know what I mean? Genuinely. Anyway, we gotta blast off.
How dare you saying that we need to market and talk to the issues that black people face? Yeah, you liberal. You freaking liberal, you wrecker. How dare you say that we need to talk to what black people face?
It's like in a weird way, it still goes along with it's still kind of like it still kind of goes back to the idea that like any sort of racialized politics is instantly supposed to be like liberal coded or something. It's not. Like black people are working class too. You got to talk to them, you know? You got to. This is not, and this country has a long history of revolutionary black politics. It's been gutted and destroyed through violence, like direct state violence, right? Assassinations, prosecutions, and then there's a decent amount of co-opting as well. But ultimately, it is something that any working class movement has to focus on. You know, that's it.
No, black people should just suck it up and be happy with the free healthcare, right? Then like the election happens, be like, wait, no, we have to speak to the needs of white people. We need to speak to the needs of young white men. Why is nobody talking to and reaching young white men? We need a Joe Rogan of the left that speaks directly to their issues. And people are like, hey, can you speak to black people's issues?
Why I was concerned about the way white leftists reacted to the Zoran Columbia story, arguing that Zoran could put African American as the same saying Elon Musk is the wealthiest African American, give me flashbacks to how Bernie supporters acted in 2015. I know, I talked to FD Signifier about this as well. Guys, that is literally bait. That was literally bait. If you're in this community for 44 months, you have to recognize that that is just bait, okay? First of all, I know people are going to get mad at me for saying this, but we do live in a fucking white supremacist society. So at the end of the day, there is going to be some biases being demonstrated there, some blind spots coming out of a place of privilege, right? When someone even jokingly says that, okay, if it's an ally, you can have a normal conversation with them and be like, hey man, that's like not funny, okay? It's just like kind of weird to say, and that's fair. But recognize that was bait placed in the media, in the New York Times, specifically to invoke this kind of sectarian division, this racialized division. That was the whole point. That was the whole point, so that people, especially like Gen X black people that are understandably pretty tuned into any sort of like white supremacist takes, are going to go, oh, these guys don't give a fuck about us. That's why the Bernie Bro stuff was so prescient. Like, it was so successful for a lot of people. That plus like the turnout machine. I think Sean is placing an emphasis on the application of responsibility of white leftists to consistently self-reflect and check themselves when they're perpetuating white supremacy. This chat sometimes does that through the woke of the day thing whenever they hear a POC voice, like you mentioned, saying that's liberal coded. That's not, more often than not, that is literally done on the basis of not someone who is adding to the conversation in a productive manner, okay? And there's always going to be, in a large tent, there's always going to be fucking people that go, this is not within my comfort zone, okay? This is an unfortunate reality with coalition building regardless, okay? It's for people who are concern trolling and are demonstrating a narcissistic desire to be heard when we're talking about something entirely separate. You feel me? I think people understand exactly where that comes from. You understand it for other things, but I think you probably have seen me do that. You probably have seen me do that for something you care about that you think was a valid point. And then, of course, you go, oh, wait, hold on. This is like inappropriate. This is inappropriate that he said this is a woke of the day.
Issues? Fuck you. Fuck you. Get out of here. We're not talking to you. Like, what are we talking? Like, is that not crazy?
I haven't blasted off yet. I'm going to do it right now. Look, the reality of the matter is, if you want to bring in, okay, if you want to bring in people that are born into a system where they've never had to reconsider their stances and take certain things for granted, and understandably have developed like a white supremacist opinion or a transphobic opinion, you are going to encounter biases. You're going to encounter microaggressions, things of that nature. Okay, trying to sanitize that would, if I were to try and sanitize every minutia, everything that happens both in this massive community and just in general on the internet, I would not be able to get across anything that I want to get across. I would not be able to cover anything that I want to cover. You know what I mean? And it would be utterly unproductive overall. This is the reason why there's a method to this madness, if you will. It would be a permanent stun lock, back and forth. But the goal for me is to... the goal for me always is to get people who are in the margins to no longer have these kinds of biases over the course of a long, extended period of time. And that's part of the reason why this community has grown so much over the past 8 years, because everybody at the end of the day has some kind of blind spot born out of their privileged position. I understand that, and it would be incredibly hypocritical of me to act as though that is not the case for every single person's starting position. Are you talking about yourself here? Of course I'm talking about myself as well. What do you mean? Of course. All right, liberals finally come to terms with Gaza starvation. Your community isn't safe for marginalized people. See, this is what I mean. This is like, this kind of stuff is ridiculous. Like that's okay, sure. It's not, you know, you've just been duped into thinking that it was for 21 months when you were a supporter for 21 months. Like, that's what I mean. Like that's a ridiculous statement. That's a ridiculous statement. This is not a completely safe space. Of course it's not. This is an open environment where people can just fucking come in and say whatever they want. Okay. And it's never going to be, there's an arena full of people in here from all different walks of life. But if you consider this to be a stadium full of people, if you consider this to be like not safe enough for you, you know, that's it. I have nothing to say to that. Okay. Well, I'm sorry. Anyway, liberals want to come to terms with Gaza starvation. What else was I going to do? I got stun locked so early. That's crazy. Hold on. Trump, terror, Kamala comeback. That's and more. Get it now. I think one of the things that takes place, and I'll take ownership over my own actions in this, is that like a lot of chatters will get their notes from me. And in the process of getting their notes from me, they might not be equipped with the same level of knowledge or the same personal experiences that I have, right? And therefore, they will turn around and you know, behave in the same way that I'm behaving, right? And they'll blast it on someone that, like, they'll use it in an environment where it's not appropriate to use it. Like, they'll just be like, "Oh, you're being woke of the day," when someone is making like a valid claim, right? Without truly understanding like why I sometimes push back on people pressing on certain issues. Like when that person said this is not a safe space for minorities, it's like, okay, I mean, sure. And I think that's the issue, where there's a lot of dogpiling as well, that takes place, and then that pisses people off, especially when they are making a valid concern. And I'm sure, like, I'm a human being at the end of the day. I have privilege, I have biases, I have blind spots. I'm sure I fucking misfire too. I mean, I do, and then I try to take ownership over it and recognize it when I do, right? But I mean, you don't let people be tired and say things out. Oh my God, do not relitigate this discourse. Don't start that. But ultimately, what I try to get across is that people are imperfect, myself included, and we should be more understanding of people when they bring up concerns. But also simultaneously, there should also be a recognition that, like, there are definitely people that are on their own journey of learning, and might get something wrong, or might even come across as like annoying or shitty. But it's not the same as like a person reinstating white supremacist values. And it's not necessarily someone just being like, there's a racial pecking order here, but instead it's what is this? What the hell is this red bubble thing that you sent me? Your girl watches The Office. My girl watches Hasanabi. We are not the same. That's crazy. Okay, no, I need a better meme. Pull up Sean the Black. I think you missed the Marga bit on the point I was making, and we can have a convo about it on some point in the future for sure. I haven't blasted off yet. You are an introduction to leftist thought. You cover the news from a perspective that isn't usually seen in the media. It's up to chatters to take what they learn here and do more growing outside of here. Do more reading, do more organizing, keep growing. Yeah, exactly. Use this to blast off law. What is this? No. The she is the moment Cole. That's so stupid. I can't believe the White House posted that. Why are they even doing that? Like, who is that for? Would you ever go on Kill Tony? Probably not. I don't think they would ever ask me to go on anyway, though. All right, I got one. Okay, we're doing this. All right, we got one. It was more so about when minorities talk and the response they got. Yes, in most circumstances, I think people don't realize, like, they either see the afterthought or they see like the worst possible version of this. But like, you know what comes to my mind about like not placing minority opinions as in the forefront of my conversation? That one crazy lady who came in here and was like, well, I'm a Native American and I think we should get all the Mexicans out. It's like, what are you fucking saying, dude? I don't give a shit what your background is at that point. Like, what do you mean? Like, do you see what I mean? Do you remember that one lady who was like, I'm indigenous, like I'm a Native American living in California, and I think we should get all the Mexicans out. Do you think that this is reflective of like indigenous politics? Do you think we should be doing standpoint theory in that situation? When I shit on that person and say your background should should literally have you saying the exact opposite of this position that you're currently demonstrating. Like, is that fucked up? Is that me reinstating white supremacist values or whatever? More women drone pilots, incarnate chatters have to stop viewing identity as the whole ballgame. Exactly. It's also additionally ironic because like she was like, I'm indigenous and I think we got to get the Mexicans out. It's like, okay, well, yeah, they're indigenous too. Like, what are you talking about? Like, half of the people you're saying we got to get them out are not the white Mexicans. They're the indigenous Mexicans. Anyway, when people say listen to minority opinions, that doesn't mean you have to listen to everything they say. It just means doesn't immediately brush it aside. No, I mean, I don't. Or at least I try not to. This feels like a bad faith argument because most of the time you're disproportionately shitting on liberals of color in a tone I've never seen you use for open white supremacists. Wait, what? This is what I mean. This is why I don't do this kind of stuff. It's got to be bait, right? Are you serious? Liberals of color? I shit on liberals of color more than I do open white supremacists? I can't tell you what I think should be done to open white supremacists. I get banned. The fuck? You said absolutely. Yeah, okay. All right. Well, good luck to you, chatter. These kinds of chatters are exactly how Hillary Clinton sabotaged Bernie's image in 2016. I need people to understand. I need people to understand something. This kind of conversation is not like, it doesn't work. It's just, it doesn't. There's no way to like, I'm glad that person demonstrated exactly what I usually push back on. Like, that statement is just incorrect. Like, you know what I mean? Chatters is like, yo, excuse me, you've been so bigoted to Cory Booker for being a supporter of Israel's genocide. More so than what? What I've said about Randy Fine? You know? Are you crazy? Are you insane? Like I said, I can't say what I think about half of the open white supremacists because, you know, you just have to imagine what I'm implying, okay? Anyway, was there a little F? I'm a brown Muslim man from Britain, and I have to say the way you speak about British people is definitely problematic. Yeah, fucking hell. Are we covering Love Island drama today? What is Love Island drama? New Harry Enton video. All right, I gotta stop fucking responding to chat and move on. I'm sorry, guys. I think this is a little unproductive. I mean, it's good to do some housekeeping every now and then, but at a certain point, this turns into everybody going, here's my pet project. And the irony is, this is something that I have put my foot down on many times throughout my streaming career. And it's been an issue when I had 35 people in the chat, and it's been an issue when I had 35,000 people in this chat. And if I were to listen to the 35 people back then and try to sanitize everything that I'm doing and try to do commentary in a way that suits the expectations of some of the most sensitive people in this community, for good reason, by the way. They're not sensitive for bad reason. They're sensitive for good reason. Then this would not be a force. This community would not be as successful of a force and have impact and change so many people's minds slowly but surely. On the one hand, people say, oh, well, Hassan presents a an introductory to leftist politics and is like gotten my brother out of the alt-right pipeline and all this stuff. But also on the other hand, they're like, but he still has so many different issues in terms of like expressing, in terms of expressing bigoted opinions. He's a fascist. He's he is far harder on liberals of color than he is on white supremacists or whatever the fuck. Like, it's just, that's, it's ridiculous. Like, I'm not going to abide by that. If it's not for you, I perfectly understand. There are plenty of communities that will cater to your expectations. Anyway, let's get into it. Germany, process to recognize Palestine state must begin now. Even they got Germany speaking out.
Germany says the process to recognize a Palestinian state must begin now. Berlin adding that Israel is increasingly in the minority over the issue of Palestine. The move comes just hours after Canada said it planned on recognizing the state of Palestine at the UN General Assembly in September. For more, we can go across to Nick Holsworth standing by in Berlin. Nick, good afternoon. Just how significant is what's coming out of Germany today?
Germany is the last bastion of Israel defense. So it is fairly significant when you got, this is like, it's like America number 1, Germany number 2, Israel number 3 in terms of defending Israel. So when you got even Germany being like, oh, we are going to move to this state recognition. Yeah, that's fairly significant. I will say, that is not an insignificant move. Okay. That's shocking. Even though, let's be real, and I've talked about this already, all of these statehood recognitions are coming with a shit ton of qualifiers, and they're actually not moving the needle as hard as it's supposed to, and it's pretty messed up overall. But I think it implies that the environment has changed quite a bit. On the one hand, I'm wary because it is a PR stunt. I don't trust Western nations at all. But on the other hand, I do think that the permission structure has shifted so dramatically that these guys are engaging in this to appease the masses, to appease the discontent that they are experiencing, and they have to respond. America doesn't, because America's not a democracy, and America has a fuck you gonna do about it kind of attitude, right? Whereas, like, European liberal democracies at least symbolically have to defend democracy and liberal values. So I think that they're just trying to find an outlet where they could just be like, yeah, we are also responding to the increasing public pressure that is mounted against us due to this Israel stuff by saying we'll offer state recognition with these incredible conditions, of course, which renders the state recognition useless because a lot of the Palestinian state recognition actually comes from like these ridiculous qualifiers. Hey, Sean the Black, thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream, brother. Where a lot of the state recognition qualifiers are demilitarized Palestinian state, run by the Palestinian Authority, which is incredibly unpopular in the eyes of the Palestinians. It's not a real democratic process at all. The Palestinian Authority is a de facto arm of the Israeli security apparatus. It is the second least popular entity in the region in the eyes of the Palestinians, after Israel, of course. And also the idea that they are supposed to be demilitarized makes the process of full-blown ethnic cleansing imminent. It basically says no longer can Israel do full-blown ethnic cleansing right now in the Gaza Strip, but they can continue doing the same process that they've taken place through a sequence of checkpoints, annexation, land grabs, pogroms that they've engaged in the West Bank. That's basically what they're saying, which is Israel's goal ultimately. How can anyone avoid or deny the reality that Israel's goal is the greater Israeli project at this point? You can't deny it. It's undeniable. That's precisely the reason why they're even making this inference, making this state recognition known, right? Why? Because Israel's ethnic cleansing campaign has gotten so imaginably horrible that it has created this massive amount of public pressure that politicians have to respond to at this point. It's become unavoidable. Like I said, you have to become undeniable. You have to become unavoidable. If you want to let your voice be heard, if you want change to happen in the Western world, you just have to keep up the pressure. And all of a sudden, all that pressure amounts to state recognition with like these conditions. It's not enough. You have to keep pushing.
Presents a massive shift in German foreign policy. Support for Israel is built in to the German constitution. For 80 years now, since the end of the Nazi regime in 1945 and since the beginning of the German Federal Republic, which was founded in 1949, support for Israel has been part of the ground laws, as they're called in Germany, and indeed criticising Israel, that's allowed, but any anti-Semitic expression is punishable by law of up to 5 years in prison. So the fact that the German Foreign Minister, Johann Wadephul, is considering supporting a two-state solution, supporting a Palestinian state. He said it would be the end of the process rather than the beginning of the process, is extremely significant. And he's flying to Israel today to hold a meeting with his Israeli counterpart, Gideon Sair, later this afternoon. So the fact that he's released his statement before he flies to Jerusalem is extremely significant. It's putting the Israelis on notice that Germany's position is shifting.
Nick, thank you very much for the update. Nick Holdsworth reporting there from Berlin. Let's go across to Jerusalem now. France 24's Noga Tarnopolsky is standing by. Noga, this is a bombshell shift in tone from Germany, and it follows similar statements from other G7 states. Has there been any reaction?
There's been vicious reaction from Israel. The first country to make this announcement was France, and Israel responded by via the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister by accusing President Macron of being a collaborator with Hamas terror, no less, of rewarding murderous Hamas terror by recognizing a Palestinian state. And clearly this is part of a well-coordinated diplomatic tsunami plan to pressure Israel.
Everyone is Hamas. I mean, of course, Israel is Hamas. Who isn't Hamas at this point? You know, Germany is Hamas. Germany saying this is so funny. What are Benjamin Netanyahu's going to come out and be like, this is the most anti-Semitic thing that Germany has ever done in its long history. Nothing is more anti-Semitic than the recognition of a Palestinian state. Nothing. I repeat, this is far outdoing the Holocaust in magnitude. Conditional state recognition is worse than the Holocaust, is what we will hear. Oh my God. 80 years after the Holocaust, and Germany is returning to support Nazism. I mean, it's not as bad. This is not as bad as I was joking about. What I'm joking about is like someone saying this is worse than the Holocaust, okay? He's not saying that. He's saying this is the equivalent of the Holocaust. Oh, Jesus Christ. Not letting Israel do the Holocaust is basically one Holocaust, okay? That's crazy. It never stopped. As I have argued before, Germany supports Netanyahu for the same reason it birthed Hitler. Both promise to be Western bulwarks against the Untermensch, the rebellious subhumans who dared to threaten empire. I mean, it's true. Bro, Israel literally invited members of the AfD, Alternative for Deutschland, to the anti-Semitism conference. Okay? They do not care about actual neo-Nazis. They love actual neo-Nazis. The only thing they care about is when people say, hey, you should stop doing a Holocaust. That's when they go, this is the most anti-Semitic thing anyone has ever said. You are basically, you denying me the right to literally do a live stream Holocaust is basically one Holocaust, okay? That's what it is. Yeah, they had to cancel the anti-Semitism conference in Israel because they invited too many anti-Semitic white supremacists, okay? That is what we're talking about here. They have no leg to stand on. It's just ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It's totally and utterly ridiculous. It's like when people go, "Oh, dude, you know what's really problematic? Not me being racist, you calling out my racism. That's what's pissing me off. That's the real issue here." It's like, no, I think it was the original racism that's the real issue.
It's not just the UK and France and Canada and now Germany, a country with which Israel has uniquely close ties, who are discussing the possibility and the eventual necessity of recognizing a Palestinian state. But as our colleague Nick just said, the German minister is doing so on his way to Israel. He's about to arrive in Jerusalem. And we also have Sweden. The prime minister in Sweden called for suspending the European free trade agreement with Israel. So these are all extremely serious matters. They indicate the complete collapse of Israeli foreign policy that we have seen under Prime Minister Netanyahu during this war. I mention his name in particular because Netanyahu has long presented himself to Israelis as, and I'm quoting now from his many political campaigns, as in another league, in a more elevated diplomatic league, as the one specialist who really...
Bro, it turns out, even by European standards, okay, after centuries of death, destruction, extraction of natural resources from the global south, slavery, even with all the bounties of colonial empire, even the Europeans have like a distaste for maximum death and destruction, like doing a 13th century style siege on a captive population that has fucking iPhones and can literally elevate the problem directly to the doorstep of every single person in the Western world is untenable. Who would have thought? Okay. It turns out, regardless of the multi-billion-dollar influence peddling operation and advocacy groups that you have cultivated over a long period of time, over multiple decades, in an effort to align so perfectly with Western foreign policy in this resource-rich region, there is only so much death and destruction that even the most racist, Islamophobic people will allow, okay? We are there. We are there. There is no starvation of children that is appropriate in the eyes of the Western world, so much so that even liberal politicians in America have to respond to this and be like, okay, I don't know how we got here, but oops, we can't do this any longer. Okay? That's it. I can't even, like, I thought, and I say this as someone who constantly talks about how fucking depraved we are here in the West, right? In the comfort of our homes. But I thought even this would have been packed up a long time ago. I thought that there was only so much death and destruction that people would be on board with. I literally thought, you know, the entirety of the hospital system collapsing in the Gaza Strip was enough. I thought it should have been enough. This should have ended a year ago. This should have been ended a year ago with prosecutions coming in instantly. It is crazy that there is still people holding out hope that, you know, you can complete the ethnic cleansing. You can complete the ethnic cleansing campaign. It's crazy. I had a fun interaction today. An older Jewish woman sits out with a sign that says "Free Palestine, my city" almost every day. An Israeli dude goes and starts harassing her. So I step in. He then tells me that I'm Hamas and I look like an Arab. He does what the typical Israeli does and spits at my feet. Then I tell him I'm Jewish, to which he says, "You are no Jew," and walked off. I called him an anti-Semitic pig as he walked away. Classic. That's the craziest thing, because look. The time is, the attitude shift is so dramatic. I'm telling you right now, people, even liberal Zionists, are going to point to guys like that and basically be like, oh, they're just like extremists. They don't represent us, okay? It's coming. It's coming because the association of Judaism with Israel only worked as a defensive posture when everybody thought Israel is awesome. Now that everybody knows Israel is not awesome at all, oh my God, everything that Israel now represents is no longer like the pharmaceutical industry and like making the desert bloom and being the most gay moral democracy in the fucking region or whatever. And instead, ethnic cleansing and the starvation of children for some kind of like loose association with religion that is a false conflation to begin with. Now that is the only thing that Israel is known for, understandably, I think Jews in the Western world are probably going to forcibly separate themselves from this association and actually look negatively upon this association in the future. Now, not yet. And there are still plenty of people who personally hang on to this notion that you can continue defending it. Okay, you can continue defending Israel. You can continue defending Israel. You can keep going back to the old tricks and be like, look at the enemies of Israel. They're all barbaric. They're monsters. They're monsters. They're monsters. But I don't think it's going to continue. I think for the average person, they have completely checked out. Okay, they've checked out. Not gonna lie, you do more work defending the rights of Muslims in the West than any actual Muslim speakers out here. And yes, because they're fucking bought and sold. Okay. Also, what do you mean actual Muslim? Listen, regardless of my lack of regardless of me being a bad Muslim, okay, it doesn't matter. My name is Hassan, so they don't let me get away with that. They don't go, yeah, this guy is this guy's not a real one. Okay. Oh my God, Kaya's fucking snoring so loud. It is crazy.
And be Israel's face to the world. All of that is crumbling very, very quickly right now.
And Noga, I'm just curious, what are ordinary Israelis saying about this shift in tone that's coming from right around the world? Do they feel alone now?
I think Israel.
Do they feel alone now? I mean, dude, I don't think shit. Israeli society broadly thinks about these sorts of things any longer. I think they have found a perfect thought terminating cycle here where they just go, oh, it's anti-Semitism. Okay. It's such a powerful motivator because anti-Semitism has been a fucking blight for thousands of years, and anti-Semitism still certainly exists. Okay. So because of that reason, I think it's even more powerful than when white Christians in America talk about white Christian persecution, okay? Because there is a validity to the marginalization. That is the reason why I think it is virtually impossible to get people in Israel to understand why they are being considered as a fucking pariah state. Having said that, however, just as though white Afrikaners started slowly but surely coming to that recognition that they had become a pariah due to their apartheid, I think a lot of Israelis will eventually say, hey, we got to fucking stop this. Like, this is crazy. And if they don't, it's done. Even if they do, it's done. Zionism as a project is, in my opinion, over. It's been over. This is the death knell of Zionism as a project. It's so funny. I tweeted this thing that is not exactly the most it's not like this is like I'm limited by the word count on Twitter, right? I said one phone call is all it would take to stop Israel's genocide. If Israel doesn't comply, shut off weapons transfers. If Israel looks to get weapons elsewhere, put a sanctions package. And if that fails, invade Israel militarily. This is why all it takes is one phone call. And a lot of people got very mad at this. They said, this is childish. This is childish. This is childish. Okay? This guy, for example, said, this alone should disqualify this guy from any serious discourse law. He's just a frat bro who, at the end of the day, is an entertainer first and foremost. And even that is a stretch. I said, U.S. presidents have stopped Israel with one phone call under Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and even Biden in 2021. What made you feel so confident in your stupidity? Leave your hug box immediately. And I don't understand because, like, it is objectively untrue. I'm the one in a hug box. You are surrounded by yes men. Won't talk to actual educated people with differing viewpoints who would legitimately challenge you on stream. You cry when friends make slight jabs at you. You ban motherfuckers. I don't know what the fuck this guy is talking about. He follows Tectone. I don't know who this guy is, but I just don't understand. Like, none of this is relevant to my point. Chad is the biggest op. What do you mean? No, I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, none of this makes sense. For fuck's sake, you can't even watch videos criticizing you. It's like, dude, you have a childish brain, okay? You have the brain of a child. You have the brain of a child because we're talking about, like, foreign policy. You say I'm wrong in my assessment. You say it's a childlike way of understanding foreign policy. And it's an oversimplified thing that I'm saying there, right? One phone call. It's not literally one singular phone call, okay? It's as close to one phone call as it can get. Having said that, however, you don't address the point that I'm making. This is what is so frustrating about trying to do political commentary in this field, right? Because I'm trying to have a normal conversation on the issues, but people immediately go back to being like, no, you're stinky and I don't like you. And the reason why I don't like you is because of all of these things that I just fucking made up. Like, okay, answer my question. If you think one phone call is so ridiculous as an assessment, answer the question. Why has one phone call been all that is necessary to stop Israel's bloodshed in the past? It doesn't make sense. It's so silly. This is not like you didn't answer the argument. This right here is a perfect demonstration of the fucking discourse and how stupid it is when you try to have a conversation about politics with people who don't actually care about the politics at all, who basically have decided what their political perspective is simply on the boundaries of who they like as a content creator and who they hate as a content creator. Okay? Yeah, Biden stopped Israel with one phone call in 2021. How did that happen? It's just a faucet of irrelevant things, okay? That guy has 0 tweets containing the word genocide until he responded to you. The U.S. wields enough power over Israel as client state to get it to change course, as has been demonstrated repeatedly. Almost the entire world agrees that Israel should stop occupying the Palestinian territories. On its own, Israel is small and can't resist a global consensus. The only reason Israel behaves the way it does is unfailing U.S. support, which it won't be able to reliably count on indefinitely. Exactly. And that is the reason why it's so important for people like yourselves, people like myself, to continue pressuring politicians, to continue pressuring the administration, even though it seems impossible, even though change seems impossible. Okay? You have to keep pushing. It's that simple. Because every step that you take, damn, why didn't you ever have a take like that, Lamau? Wait, what? That's the same take. That tweet is basically the same exact tweet that I just described the steps as to why it would take one phone call to stop. What? Yes, it is a joke. You've said it forever. Oh, okay. SRGFX, thank you for the 25 get the subs. What you might be saying is that this phone call is not possible this time because it could be the end of Israel. It is really on the brink. What it has done can't be undone. Everyone would attack Israel without U.S. backing. What? No, that's not how this goes. Okay? That's not how this goes at all. No, the funniest criticism of this that I saw was people being like, oh, I thought Hassan hated military intervention. Now he wants to invade. Hassan hated the Iraq invasion, which was illegal. So he hates classic. He wants to invade the Jewish nation state. It's like, dude, they are literally doing Nazi shit. Okay? If there was ever a valid military invasion, it would be this one. It's never going to get to that point regardless. My point is it never has to get to that point. Because that being the maximalist position implies that one phone call is all it would take. That's the whole point of this fucking tweet. That's it. Anyway, people who celebrate D-Day don't understand that, the force that they were. Why are they dunking on you for this? They're not dunking. They're just like yelling into a void. Okay? People are lashing on you because they know you were right since October 7 and they weren't. It's pathetic behavior. No, I think like people are doing that because they also can't contend with open defense of Israel at this point. So instead of openly defending Israel at this point, they still have to they have to grab on to anyone they can and to be like, oh, well, this person is anti-Semitic, I think, please. Or this person is crazy. His opinions are crazy. It's just like they can't contend with the reality shifting at an alarming rate around them as more and more people come to the terms with the reality on the ground. So they have to just like lash out at people who are right all along. That's it. It's no different than like what Matty Iglesias is doing. But because Matty Iglesias is a professional adult that works in media, he obviously has to take a different tone than people who are still holding out hope for some kind of defense of Israel by just simply attacking Israel's critics.
Israelis feel extremely alone. The country is more and more isolated, and increasingly in ways that regular Israelis can feel. Israel has been distanced from the rest of the world during this long period of war, in part because foreign airlines have stopped flying here. It has become more and more risky to be an Israeli abroad, to be heard speaking Hebrew, has become a draw for in some cases, real violence. And remember that the Israeli Prime Minister, this same magician of diplomacy, now faces indictments from the International Criminal Court. So he can barely travel abroad. He used to be a standard bearer for Israel. I do think that it's important to remember that a two-state solution, until fairly recently, was the official position of the Israeli state. The state of Israel said, we want to live side by side with an eventual state of Palestine. It is Prime Minister Netanyahu who, in a fairly recent statement a few years ago, said, over my dead body, will there be a state of Palestine? He turned this issue into a taboo when it is almost by definition, an Israeli interest to be able to live side by side in peace with Palestinians. And now this taboo that he created is being used against him and is being used against Israel by allied leaders who were searching for some way, any way they could pressure him, now that the Trump administration appears to have decided to give him almost blanket support.
Well, we'll see if that does shift once those discussions with Steve Witkoff start. Thank you very much for that, Noga Tanopolsky, reporting there for us from Jerusalem.
What's going to happen when it goes back to the exact same method? I got called a capo today by the president of my alma mater, Jewish Alumni Association, after she tried to dox a girl for shitting on someone for wearing an IOF shirt at the local gym in my college town. After you try to dox a girl for, shitting on someone for wearing an IOF shirt. Yeah, I mean, look, listen, the more discourse shifts against Israel as politicians and the media play catch up to where the public attitude has been for quite a while, right? Because that's what the media is doing. That's what the politicians are doing. They're playing catch up. The more its defenders, Israel's defenders, will cynically try to attack its critics, okay? They cannot contend with the walls closing in. That's it. That's it. It's in its death throes. Zionism as a project is in its death throes. Israel is a pariah state that even politicians are being forced to recognize as a pariah state now. And while they take their sweet ass fucking time, with like these incredibly convoluted and restrictive conditional recognitions, okay, that will open up a permission structure for people like ourselves to continue our advocacy. That's it. I never thought that I would see the day where, I mean, you know, this kind of commentary is silly, but like the Pod Johns sound like me a year ago, you know? Like you got Pod Save America, you got Obama's speech writing team and its podcasting circle that is fairly influential, right? They are now talking like I was speaking a year ago. That, I think, is a signal of the attitude shift. That's why we say one day everyone will have always been against this. Trump is now also trying to weaponize the tariffs again against Canada. Trump hints no Canada trade deal over Palestine recognition. Ridiculous. It still feels like people are trying to qualify their statements by being like, Israel was right to respond to October 7th the way they did, but now they've gone too far. Yeah, that's fucking bullshit, okay? That's bullshit. The idea of like claiming, you know, Israel has a right to defend itself but Hamas, like these kinds of qualifiers are ridiculous, okay? No one has a right to do a genocide. It's that simple, which is why so many people refuse to say it. So many people still refuse to say Israel's an apartheid. So many people refuse to say Israel's doing a genocide. The reason why they can't say it, Bernie Sanders, okay, is because Israel does not have a right to a genocide. No one has a right to do a genocide. There's no justification for it. So because Israel is currently doing a genocide, and many people are recognizing it as such, okay, many more people are recognizing it as such, especially at this point, people that are still holding on to this notion of Israel just like kind of getting ahead of itself and only accidentally, oopsie, doing this ethnic cleansing campaign are speaking to a reality that doesn't exist. Yeah, I saw a Boston Celtics player's sister going off on someone defending an Israeli player that wants to educate Americans on what's really happening. Yeah, I saw. I actually liked her response to this as well. Anna Horford, okay, The sister of Boston Celtics power forward Al Horford goes on a nasty rant against Danny Avdija for supporting his home country, Israel. And then it's an Israeli flag and then a shy emoji. Danny is a hero. If you don't know him, he is up-and-coming Israeli all-star player who plays for the Portland Trail Blazers. Everyone show him support. This was the tweet. Danny Avdija says he's willing to educate people in the U.S. Not everyone understands 100% what is happening in Israel. We're a very small country. We are a small country. And there are people who live in bubbles in their countries. Many are interested. And I always explain the whole situation. Anna Horford says, this is like a Nazi trying to justify the Holocaust. You can't both sides what Israel's doing. Israeli denial and lack of accountability will be studied for decades to come. The NBA is made worse by his presence. Okay? Denny is 100% Albanian, man. Yeah, I don't know this dude's background, but she responded and I really liked it. She said, heroes don't support genocide and apartheid. Outdated Zionist propaganda doesn't work anymore. The world sees you for who you are. Respect. It's a tiny nation. Israel, tiny nation. Why you come after Israel? It's tiny nation. His dad played for Yugoslavia? A shame. No way. Really? God damn. Tito would be disgusted. Trump warns Jewish donor. MAGA is starting to hate Israel. Not enough. Not hard enough. Okay. The craziest thing that I have heard was a friend's brother agreeing that it's a genocide and apartheid. For that reason, they should exist. Wait, what? A small but vocal contingent of his MAGA base, including younger Republicans and far-right podcasts, have grown skeptical of Washington's relationship with Israel. My people are starting to hate Israel. Trump recently warned a prominent Jewish donor. Yeah, no shit, dude. Anyway, there is a technical reason and a really cynical, really fucked up reason, for the record, why many politicians, including maybe Bernard Sanders, who refuse to call it a genocide, because a genocide is illegal and aiding and abetting a nation that is conducting a genocide is also illegal. And unless you're AOC and you somehow say Israel's doing a genocide, but we also have to defend it, most politicians don't want to say the first part because the second part looks fucking stupid when you say the first part. AOC literally says a genocide, but then turns around and is like, but we still have to give defensive weapons to the country doing genocide. Okay, well, you're out of your mind then. Okay, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Ridiculous. But that's what it is. That's where it comes from. As if the size of a country determines your responsibility towards international laws and human rights. Yeah. Israel, tiny nation. Okay, well, you're still doing a genocide to 2 million people right now. Okay, and an apartheid to another 2.5. And you refuse to let, like, basically the remaining 10 million Palestinians back into their ancestral homelands. That's pretty fucked up. I don't give a shit what size you are. Also, it doesn't matter what size you are. You got nukes, and America's backing you to the hilt. It's just, like I've said, dude, I think there are many things that Israel did wrong in this process. There are many things that Israel did really wrong in this process, okay? But one of the things that I identified early on was the comfort that Israeli envoys experienced for many, many decades, okay? As they were able to freely contextualize why all of this bloodshed was totally appropriate. And if you actually criticized it, you were anti-Semitic, and that would just shut off all kinds of responses instantly, right? Now that that no longer exists, they thought they could still get away with that bullshit. And because of that, when they couldn't get away with it, they got incredibly fucking arrogant. I'm sorry, but if you're that fucking arrogant, obviously Americans who don't give a shit are going to turn around and go, oh, I don't know about this. What do you mean? You've gotten billions of dollars in weapons, big dog. What is happening here? Let's dial it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Rogan has gone full woke.
And then they're kicking students out that like write articles they don't like.
Yeah, that's nuts.
I mean, I talked about this before when he first covered this.
Isn't a university supposed to be a place where someone's allowed to express themselves
Right.
and have
Non-violently?
opinions? Yeah.
This is the average American's perspective, though. Even the average American who doesn't necessarily give a shit about like what Israel is doing all that much sees like the death and destruction, thinks, this is not great. But then more consequentially, more significantly, Americans fucking hate censorship and cancel culture. And then all of a sudden, the position of defending Israel revolves around an endless amount of cancel culture and an endless amount of violations of the First Amendment, like actual, real violations of the First Amendment, not simply saying, oh, you made me feel bad, and now I'm going to yell at you. But actually, prosecution from the government, Americans see that and they go, okay, well, this is extra ridiculous.
They're writing something down and they're not calling for violence
Right.
either. And they're getting challenged. And that's supposed to be how it
Yeah.
happens. You get challenged, smarter people have better
Yeah.
arguments, or your argument stands.
Right, discourse.
Yes.
It's supposed to be a place for discourse.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you're deporting people because you don't like who they're
Right.
criticizing? Like, that
Right.
gets kind of shifty.
Yeah. Podcasters, especially, are not beholden to the administration to the same degree as like a Charlie Kirk is. Okay. And for that reason, they will basically pull out. They're like rats. They will pull out when they see things that they think are unconscionable. The free world has a moral responsibility to Palestinians in distress. Flood Gaza with food, says Richie Torres. Wow. He got woke, dude. They cheer for genocide and starve our people, but once the damage is done and the impact is irreversible, they divorce themselves from the depravity and act like they had the moral position all along. That's crazy, because that's crazy to me, because I feel like Richie Torres was, I mean, I'm blocked by him, by the way. I feel like he's been the #1 attack dog for Israel in Congress. What's going on, dude? What an attitude shift here. What a fucking attitude. What changed, Richie? Bitchy Torres? Oh, you got scared you're going to get primaried? Is that what happened? And you still, I hope you do. But yeah, this is why, by the way, this is part of the reason why I said it's not just about AIPAC dollars. Okay? It's not just about the money that these politicians get from AIPAC or other Israel advocacy groups. Okay? Do you understand? It's also, more importantly, a direct consequence of America's foreign policy needs and how much they can support that without increasing public scrutiny. That's why public pressure matters. Because when it becomes unavoidable, public pressure becomes unavoidable on this issue, and you are known for being the champion of this issue, the champion of starving children in Gaza. Okay? All of a sudden, you're out there alone. And no amount of AIPAC dollars will save you. Richie and many others are there, okay? They are recognizing the attitude shift. They're recognizing how much the public is grossed out by Israel and Israel's actions. And defending Israel can put you underwater, especially in the Democratic Party. Okay? That's it. That's where we're at. So if they want to, actually, like I said, since they have sidestepped every bridge and every exit ramp, every opportunity that they had to say the right thing, to change their trajectory, to change their attitude on this issue, okay? Right now, if you're coming out and being like, oh no, how could this have happened? Oh no, all this shit. If you're saying that right now, that's not enough. You have to literally go out on a limb and be a radical politician. You have to go out on a limb and say, this is a genocide. This is unacceptable. Okay? To make up for lost time. You have to start outflanking centrist Democrats. Okay?
Images out of Gaza have shocked the world. You got starving children, desperate crowds of people seeking food, and the unbelievable gaslighting by Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, who demands that we believe him and not our lying eyes. Here's an example.
Israel is presented as though we are applying a campaign of starvation in Gaza. What a bold-faced lie. There is no policy of starvation in Gaza, and there is no starvation in Gaza.
So this conflict, this issue, it comes with a lot of history. It's very emotional. It's politically fraught here in the United States in particular. And there are, as are so many of these seemingly intractable political problems here in the United States. So what we are trying to do here at Pod Save America is create a new space on this channel for debate and conversation that brings together everybody from the left, the Never Trump right, all the pod bros, all the neolib shills, all the abundance pill dorks, everybody in between, to have a conversation that tries to help us figure out some answers to these problems.
What? Unlikely to happen. Would you consider sitting down and talking to Cory about what made him change his mind? Cory Booker? Who said his mind has changed? Cory Booker 2 weeks ago was ass grabbing with Benjamin Netanyahu. His mind has not changed. What, are you kidding me? What's Cory Booker? I think you meant No, I think you meant Richie Torres. Senator Sanders' resolution to block offensive arms sales in response to civilian casualties in Gaza and the ongoing humanitarian crisis there fails in the Senate 2770, but notably 12 Dems voted yes that didn't support a similar resolution in April, a notable shift. It's up to 27. The depravity is clear, okay? The Democrats are fucking depraved. The Republicans are already evil monsters. We already know that. But the fact that the Dems have only gotten up to 27 at this point is crazy. Here's what Cory Booker did. 17 Democrats voted no, effectively a yes vote for more bombs on Palestine. Bennett, Blumenthal, Booker, there it is, Cantwell, Coons, Cortez Masto, Fetterman, Gillibrand, Maggie Hassan, Hickenlooper, Padilla, of course, Peters, Rosen, Schiff, Schumer, Warner, and Wyden. 3 convening absences were Gallego, and Mark Kelly and Elisa Slotkin. Yeah, Slotkin missed this vote because she was too busy going on the Colbert Report. California is so fucking cooked. Yeah. It appears Slotkin skipped 2 votes to block arms sales to Israel tonight to go on Colbert. Good stuff. Incredible. Remember how she was talking to Crystal Ball about this? Where it's like, oh, this is something I will consider. It turns out she was considering escaping. That's what she was considering. We'll talk about the Colbert Report stuff in a second, okay? You're right, though, on the legality of labeling a genocide, but then sending aid, it would stop them. Exactly. That's why. And not just not just offensive weapons. It would be illegal. It should be illegal. It is illegal to send Israel any aid right now under our pre-existing laws. This is why we kept repeating the Leahy law over and over again when Biden was the fucking president. It's ridiculous. Anyway, here's Trump literally defending Israel again because Canada is posturing towards state recognition for Palestine.
Trump suggesting he won't make a trade deal with Canada. Trump posting on Truth Social, quote, Canada just announced that it is backing statehood for Palestine that will make it very hard for the U.S. to make a trade deal with them. Canada faces a 35% levy on imported.
Where do I direct my anger? Like they bombed every building, every hospital, every single refugee camp, death did nothing. Why is food the issue? I have repeated this over and over again. Denial of aid is irredeemable in the eyes of legal authorities. It is the most overt version of ethnic cleansing. Okay? Under legal circumstances, you can actually engage in this horrifying calculation of collateral damage. This person was a priority target. Maybe he wasn't supposed to be a priority target, but we assessed it and we thought he was a priority target and we killed 50, 60 people alongside him. That can be defended. Not to say it's defensible. It's still immoral and ridiculous, but that is still something you can technically defend under international humanitarian law. Okay? There is a level of plausible deniability. There is no level of plausible deniability for refusal to render aid to a civilian population that you are bombing. If they simply killed everyone in Gaza by bombing them while simultaneously allowing aid to go in to the Gaza Strip, there would be less anger. I'm telling you right now, there is no defense for refusing to allow aid into an area that you're bombing. There's no legal defense for not having any safe zones, for example. Like areas that you do not bomb. You can't defend that. It is indefensible. You will never find an NGO or any sort of legal institution that will try to defend it. That's why Israel denies that it's happening. Okay? Israel doesn't deny that they're blowing up fucking houses and shit. They do it in broad daylight, but they deny that they're refusing aid into the Strip. The reason why they have to deny it is because it is completely illegal. It's like the one thing that is a non-starter for every NGO, for every fucking international human rights lawyer, for every single advocacy group. It is for every single organ of justice on the international scale. It does not matter. You will never be able to defend it. It is indefensible.
Goods if it does not strike a deal by tomorrow's deadline.
Canada has joined the growing list of nations.
It is the red line. And of course, the images of the depraved starvation campaign of Israel is obviously going to make people very angry. I just don't get it. Why don't Dems oppose genocide completely, at least for political gain? Why do they intentionally hurt themselves? Because they're old and because they're echo chambered, because they're cynical, because they understand that this is American foreign policy and it will not move an inch until it is impossible not to. Okay. I mean, dude, they threw the election away because of their refusal to acknowledge that Israel was committed to this genocidal campaign. It's because it's a formative part of American foreign policy in the region. That's it.
Changing their stance on the Middle East conflict after recent pictures seem to support evidence of mass starvation. Canada now says it plans to recognize Palestinian statehood. The UK and France have made similar announcements, which could affect a future peace process. Canada's Mideast policy is now at odds with President Trump, who said their announcement could impact the chances of reaching a trade deal with the U.S. Human rights groups are using strong new language about what's happening in Gaza. Deborah Patta has the latest and a warning. The images are disturbing.
The war in Gaza has reached a tipping point as images of starving children have shaken the world. But a growing number of organizations, including the UN and on Monday 2 Israeli human rights groups, are not just accusing Israel of deliberate starvation, but of a far graver crime.
Israel is committing genocide against the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip.
It's a charge Israel...
I'm frustrated because on the one hand, it is still exceptionalism. It is still supremacist to only fucking say, oh, finally it's here. Now that like Israeli NGOs are also recognizing it. But also on the other hand, from the optics game, I do think that it becomes even more indefensible for many hanger-ons and many people in the margins that just simply refuse to recognize the reality up until this point. So I'll take it. It's the same thing. It's the same principle that I have because like on the one hand, I have to be pragmatic. Okay. I have to be pragmatic. We all have to be pragmatic and we all have to recognize that this is a step in the right direction. It's a good thing that like the Israeli NGOs are also admitting this reality, even though it's fucking 22 months in. It will create more pressure. Having said that, make no mistake, it absolutely is Jewish supremacist and exceptionalist to overall refuse to recognize these atrocities when the Palestinians say it. Okay? When the Palestinians talk about their own conditions, everybody turns a blind eye. When people like myself try to highlight the plight of the Palestinians by directly showing you exactly what the Palestinians are saying, okay? They say, you're crazy, shut the fuck up. They try to deplatform people like ourselves. Only until it's an Israeli official or only until it's an Israeli NGO that openly recognizes it 22 months in, do people go, okay, I guess it's happening. It's bullshit. You know? Terrorists, until what? B'Tselem says so? Okay. Well, you didn't give a shit when B'Tselem recognized the apartheid.
Vehemently denies.
It is baseless. There is no intent. Key for the charge of genocide.
But in a new report published by a respected medical journal, The Lancet, a group of health professionals said it was time to break the silence on genocide. Their findings, made since October 7, 2023, are damning. Life expectancy has reportedly fallen by 35 years. Gaza has the highest number of child deaths of any conflict zone, and
By the way, the very fact that many smart people still refuse to call it a genocide, even though it clearly is one, is because of the additional complications that come along with that designation, that legal designation. And that's precisely why you should keep pushing people to say it, including Bernie Sanders. Okay? That's it. Because the moment that people recognize the reality that it is a genocide, okay, is the moment where all cards are off the table. You can't deny, you can't give aid to Israel, you can't defend Israel. There's no more defending genocide. You're a genocide defender at that point. And up until that moment of recognition, you were a genocide denier. That is precisely the reason why still so many liberal Zionists, from Bernie Sanders to the J Street guy that Mehdi Hassan debated, They just refuse to recognize it. They just refuse to say it's a genocide. But just like they refuse to recognize the war crimes or the ethnic displacement or the plight of the Palestinians up until 22 months in, they will inevitably recognize that as well. So I don't understand how these guys don't even think about their own personal fucking futures, where they just kind of throw that out. They just don't realize how this looks. You look like a fucking fool right now when you say, oh, I've come to the conclusion that everyone has been on for the past year and a half. Okay, great. But now you're still trying to be a setback. Now you are still trying to present yourself as a hurdle for further initiatives to be taken to stop this bloodshed. You look like an idiot right now. You're going to look even more like an idiot and an immoral monster down the line. You already are, but people will come to that recognition.
Report concludes starvation has been relentlessly used as a weapon of war. For CBS Mornings, I'm Deborah Patter in East Jerusalem.
The level of human suffering in Gaza is intolerable.
In another major blow to Israel, Canada announcing it'll recognize a Palestinian state, citing the crisis on the ground.
By the way, the other part of the reason why people can't say fucking genocide is because if you say it's genocide, then what Ansar Allah is doing is valid and just. The Houthis in Yemen, okay? What Hezbollah is doing is valid and just in Lebanon. They're not doing anything anymore because they're done, but all of a sudden, because it is, by the way, it is, literally, and all of a sudden, what we did to stop the Houthis from trying to stop Israel's genocide, all of a sudden, we're the bad guys. You understand? We are too closely associated as a belligerent in this conflict. That's the problem. I have no idea what movement means here. Dems in Congress are welcome to sign on to bills to stop the transfer of offensive weapons to Israel, but orgs attempting to rebrand need some type of accountability. J Street aggressively lobbied against the ceasefire for months. They did, which was crazy. Shouldn't they at least have to explain why they did so? Why they threatened members of Congress who supported a ceasefire in October, November, and December of 2023? There's two things being conflated here. Political coalition building around the specific demands and reputation laundering. Again, the issue around genocide is not a linguistic litmus test. It's that the label confers urgent legal and moral obligations. It has meaning. It is not a purity test or whatever. If one can't meet the baseline agreement, then there's deep disagreement as to what is going on. Read the statements coming from liberals who are supposedly joining in on the movement, in air quotes. Many of them, though not all, still have a demand Hamas disarm and surrender. This is not a change of position. It's simply rebranding support of genocide. I am all for strategic compromise, but there's an obvious risk by watering down demands to offensive carve-outs in bills everyone knows will never pass. We are not building meaningful opposition, but instead engaging in reputation laundering as a get-out-the-vote strategy for the midterms. Yeah. And Democrats who literally cast aside their electoral chances because they were fucking tied to the hip to Israel are going to do it again here. They're going to be like, oh, dude, you're being silly. You're being ridiculous. Not sure why you're being so obtuse about this. A senator can vote against weapons shipments without saying genocide. You could attend a protest without saying it. Political movements win through addition, not by demanding everyone say the exact same thing. This is beyond fatuous. No one is demanding senators not vote against Israel if they don't use the word genocide. It isn't clear what this alleged gatekeeping would even look like. What I'm saying is failure to meet this baseline, this very baseline demand indicates PR, not substantive opposition. You're spiking the football over an ultimately meaningless vote. People are still being shot by the dozens every day, and the genocide is unabated. Many Dems, though not all, are very obviously using this opportunity to launder their own complicity. That is not progress. That's exactly what's going on. And no, Tommy doesn't suck. No, stop. I'm not saying this because like I talk to them from time to time. It's not the reason. The reason why, like Tommy Vitor himself, okay, is I think amongst powerful people within the Democratic Party, Tommy Vitor has a lot more influence, commands a lot more influence than someone like myself does. Okay? I think Tommy Vitor is on board. So is Ben Rhodes. Like people that have played a formative role in Obama's foreign policy. Ben Rhodes, right? He's also one of the pod Johns, one of the pod bros. They're on board. They see it. They recognize it. Okay? They recognize it, regardless of their past actions under the Obama administration. You're joking, right? No, I think they fucking recognize what is going on they literally sound like me a year ago. Okay? That's important to acknowledge. That's important to recognize. Okay? But having said that, they should push even further. They should push even further. And not only should they push even further, they should be on board with applying pressure to Democrats who are simply cynically using this as a way to be like, we know it's not going to pass, but this is a great opportunity for us to make it seem like we're on the right side of a popular issue without any sort of real interest. Without any sort of real interest in changing the outcome for the Palestinians. That's why I always say, I don't care what someone's like background is or what they've said up until this point, as long as what they're saying from this point on is unconditional support to the Palestinians and an immediate end to this genocide, then it's fine. We can talk about where you were and what it took for you to get here after. Okay? So my criticism of people right now revolves around the many who refuse to take that fucking leap, who just do this still wishy-washy bullshit, who still present themselves as a hurdle against the emancipatory needs of the Palestinians while recognizing that there is a death and destruction campaign, a genocide. You're saying he doesn't suck because he has more influence than you? No. No. You're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I'm saying Tommy Vitor doesn't suck because he recognizes what's going on. He is, and he does speak out against it. And I'm saying it's important for someone with that much influence, a lot more influence within powerful circles than myself, to actually be consistently communicating this. Because let's be real. No Democratic senator is ever going to hear me. Okay? They're never going to hear me, even when I'm talking to them directly. It's in through one ear, out through the other. They see me simply as a pathway to reach out to these like rudderless young men, and that's it. Okay? But they do listen to Tommy Vitor and the Podjohns in general. But again, I agree with Adam Johnson, as I say quite frequently, that it's not simply a choice word. It's not like, this is not a semantics argument. Genocide is a legal designation. It is a legal designation, and they know it's a legal designation that comes with additional complications for people who do want to still continue supporting Israel. Kaya, place. What is Bernie's argument that it isn't a genocide? How does he justify this? He already said it yesterday. He said, oh, it's a legal term. I don't do legal back and forths or whatever. We leave that up to the experts. It's like, no, you don't. You don't leave murder up to the experts. That's a legal term too. You know? There is no problem with saying that an invasion is illegal when it's a foreign adversary. We don't say, oh, let's leave it up to the experts. He keeps saying you can call it whatever you want, but the people are asking, why aren't you calling it genocide? And it's just a way for him to, I think, like to move away from that conversation. Anyway, also, it is kind of silly to say, let's leave it up to the experts on calling it a genocide. Experts are calling it a genocide.
Canada has long been committed to a two-state solution. An independent, viable, and sovereign Palestinian state living side by side with the state of Israel in peace and security.
Israel condemning the move as rewarding Hamas terrorism. But the world's reacting to images like this. Gaza in the grips of near famine, according to UN experts. And efforts to deliver more food by air and land proving difficult, chaotic, and often deadly. A new UN video showing gunshots near...
What is this? Carney has signaled and private support will be unconditional. He is moving the sails on a boat at the podium. These kinds of leaders need our support and motivation. Use your base and the pod bros, etc. to help them gain speed. What? Exactly, which is why Carney is working behind the scenes to entrap Israel. If there's a leader right now who can, it's Carney. We have to encourage him to keep grinding on this. Let's support whomever is taking real actions, especially people who congregate meaningful political power. You matter a lot here. I don't know about that, dude.
A crowd desperate for food Wednesday. At least 85 people have been killed trying to get aid in the last day, including at least 13 this morning, according to the Hamas-run Ministry of Health in Gaza. Israel rejecting accusations its troops opened fire, saying they only fired warning volleys. Meanwhile, the hunger crisis only growing worse. At least 150 dying from malnutrition, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. More than half of these children. The US Special Envoy in Israel today, an American volunteer doctor in Gaza, urging him to come and see for himself what's happening on the ground.
Mr. Witkoff, just come here right now.
Well, what we're seeing now, what we understand is that Steve Witkoff is going to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to discuss a ceasefire, the return of hostages alive and dead, and also how to alleviate the suffering in Gaza.
Good evening. President Trump's special envoy has met Benjamin Netanyahu as international pressure grows on the Israeli leader to end the war in Gaza. In scenes that have become all too familiar, officials in Gaza say at least 91 people were killed while trying to get aid in the past day. Not only is Steve Witkoff trying to salvage ceasefire talks.
Wait. Hold on. The one phone call tweet has invoked some negative reactions. Avi Bitterman says the I'm Not Dying for Israel crew would ultimately, if push came to shove, be quite happy to send Americans to die for Israel. For Israel, this is obviously a cheeky way of saying for the purpose of invading, killing, destroying Israel or something along those lines. The point is that I'm Not Dying for Israel sentiments are meant to be an anti-war Israel signal, when in reality it's not really anti-war as much as it's anti about who's on the other side. Yeah, it's about anti-genocide, dude. Yeah, that's the point. Also, it never has to get to that point. That's the reason why I said this is why all it takes is one phone call. These people are so stupid. It will never get to that point, okay? Unless, this guy's a doctor? Really? What the fuck? Doctor of genocide. No one got your point? No, they're being deliberately obtuse because it's indefensible. It is indefensible. That's the reason why they are trying to be deliberately obtuse, okay? It is apparently an article of faith in some circles that Biden could have stopped the Israeli invasion of Gaza at any point with one phone call. Seems false. When pressed on this, it turns out the proposed one phone call is a threat of American ground invasion of Israel. Once again, this is reductive, but it's really interesting. Not only is this reductive, but it's pretty fucking basic stuff. I'm not saying it's just one phone call. I'm saying as to why it's about that one phone call. Okay? Because we're supplying them. Without our weapons, 70% of all munitions Israel has used, both offensively and defensively, have come from the United States of America. It's done. It's over. These are not fucking internet dweebs, chatter. These are not internet dweebs. These are like Hosberists themselves. Like the Avi Bitterman account is a Hosberist. This person is a fucking Vox author. What are you talking about? Like, this person writes for Vox. Okay? They're a relatively known, it's not their fucking 45K reach. Shut up. What are you talking about? This is a person who literally writes for a reputable liberal institution. Okay? That's not just like a random dickhead on Twitter. We can stop the Israeli invasion of Gaza by ourselves. Invading a nuclear power is, I guess, in some sense, a true claim about the world, but I do not think it's usefully simplified with one phone call. Israel should not be in Gaza. Netanyahu has no plan. He does not care about the lives of anyone there and is not achieving any conceivable legitimate war goal. I want to start talking to these people directly, okay? We should cancel aid. I don't think that will actually change Israel's behavior substantially. Well, you're admitting it then. But because this situation has an enormous number of lives at stake and is very important, it's a good idea to be serious about what actions we can take. And it's incredibly frustrating to have interactions with people who take it as an article of faith that it'd be easy. It is easy. No, Biden could not have ended this with one phone call. It's not 1982. I like that she also, because she's a Vox author, she knows the history. Okay, it's not 1982. Is it not 2021 either? Yeah, an arms embargo and sanctions would probably do the trick. Oh, no shit. Oh, so you do agree with me. Oh, I got it. Oh, no. Oh, my God. It turns out you do agree with me when someone else says it. Yeah, no shit. Also, invading a country, a nuclear country, militarily is very different when we're talking about Israel versus Russia. Russia is a foreign adversary. No one actually wants to invade Israel militarily. It would never get to that point because Israel is an extension of America's imperial project. Israel does not exist without America. Holy fuck. This admission here basically means, oh, you're right. I just don't want to agree with you. That's it. That's what for so many centrist liberals who want to defend Israel, it's literally about not giving a fucking an earnest, yeah, you were right all along and I was fucking wrong all along. They have to literally try to desperately find something in their pathetic, egomaniacal, self-centered worldview where they just have to basically turn around and say, yeah, I think this person, you made a good point, which I personally said was a bad point earlier. Yeah, it's basically this. While you may have been correct all along about Israel's commitment to exterminating the population of Gaza, you were also someone I dislike due to petty political sectarianism. So in essence, it was your fault that I had to oppose you. It's literally, you were right all along, but you were rude about it. I didn't have to be rude about it. You were just in opposition to the right position at a time when I would have needed your support. At a time when we all would have needed all of your support. Biden probably could have used his other sanctions to pressure Israel. Oh yeah, Biden can and should have done wildly more. We have a lot of leverage, and we're not even close to deploying it effectively. One phone call is a childish and false view of how that leverage works, but it does exist. The phone call is that. The fuck do you think it means when I say one phone call? Do you think Biden or Donald Trump in that phone call is going to be like, hey, Bibi, I love you. How's the weather? That's not what they're going to say. They're going to say, stop it. You know what that means if you don't. She literally agrees with me 100%. These are supposed intelligent writers for liberal institutions. No wonder they lost the election. No wonder they're losing public support. Yes, it's so fucking dumb. They literally do not have a choice. The following month, retired Israeli Major General Yitzhak Brik went even further than Galant. All our missiles, the ammunition, the precision-guided bombs, all the airplanes and bombs, it's all from the U.S., Brik said in an interview in November. The minute they turn off the tap, we can't keep fighting. You have no capability. Everyone understands that we can't fight this war without the United States, period. And if they're such an insane rogue state that we cannot tell them to stop doing things we don't want them to do on our dime, the solution doesn't seem like it's giving them tens of billions of dollars in additional funding as Biden did in real time. I'm going to actually save this. Am I wrong to think that if they choose to, by the way, you know what the other cynical side of this is that's really stupid that these people don't fucking realize because they're too dumb to see anything beneath. They're too dumb to see anything outside of their fucking horse blinders. My argument is the one that is against anti-Semitic fascists. Okay? Because if you develop a worldview, and many liberals have done this, right? Where they've developed this worldview where like, we just simply can't stop Israel and we just simply have to keep giving them unlimited money. What do you think is the reason? Because if it's not America, which has all the fucking power here and refusing to stop it, then what is the reason? Is it Jewish mind control, perhaps? Is it the power of hypnosis? Is that the reason? Because that's what many people think now. Because you have designed a narrative that makes no fucking logical sense. What do you think is the reason then? I know what the reason is. I say the truth. It's because America likes what Israel is doing. But liberals who also personally are beholden to Western chauvinistic framework, who also want to defend Israel and also defend the Democratic Party or the American institutions, literally cannot openly say America wants this to continue and that's why it's continuing. They have to say, no, Israel is a sovereign state. Israel is a totally separate sovereign state. They could do all of this stuff without us. They can't. Israel knows they can't do it. That's why it takes one fucking phone call. That's it. Because if it doesn't take one phone call, and if it's not America actually allowing Israel to do all this shit, then what's the reason? What is the reason? What is the reason? You have no answer for this. Liberalism does not have an answer for this. Liberal Zionism does not have an answer for this. And that's why if you leave that puzzle with a piece missing, people plug their own fucking puzzle piece on there, and that puzzle piece always is Jewish mind control. That's it. That's what a lot of people are arriving at the conclusion on. It's a dangerous one because it's untrue and also bigoted. People are opening the floodgates of fascism in this country, anti-Semitic fascism in this country, and so many liberals are basically championing it without realizing what this spells for their future prospects. It's additionally fucked if you're also a Jewish Zionist in this country. There is functionally no difference between what Nick Fuentes says and what liberal Zionists say. The only difference is liberal Zionists like what Israel is doing, and Nick Fuentes claims he hates it because they're Jews, okay? That's it. That's it. They're saying the same shit. Their defense is the same, or in Nick Fuentes' case, his offense is the same. And the more they cast aside people that do not abide by this framework, that like Israel is this false framework, okay? I can't say Nick is in the wrong here, Cap. No, of course he's in the fucking wrong, dumbass. What are you talking about? Of course he's in the fucking wrong. He's saying the same shit that liberals are saying. The only difference is he's ostensibly against it. Okay? He is ostensibly against it. But the fundamentals are the same. That we just have some unspoken loyalty to Israel. That's what he's saying. And that Israel is doing this for all Jews. His different fundamental, his major difference, of course, between like Nick Fuentes and Jake Tapper is that Jake Tapper says Israel's doing this for Jews and it's a good thing. Nick Fuentes says Israel's doing this for Jews and it's a bad thing because Jews are bad. That's the only difference. But they're saying the same fucking shit. That's why so many people cope and say, oh, it must be. That's why so many people cope and say, it must be blackmail, because they can't recognize that America likes what Israel is doing. America allows Israel to keep doing what it's doing. So it must be that our big, beautiful politicians that otherwise would be based in anti-Semitism build must be getting blackmailed by the Jewish Mossad. That's it. That's the whole point. And it doesn't mean that like Mossad or the CIA doesn't engage in blackmail. Of course they do. But the real reason is not AIPAC. The real reason isn't blackmail. The real reason is because this is American foreign policy. Okay? This is a part of American foreign policy. They do not care that Israel is killing Palestinians. They do not care to give unlimited trillions of dollars to Israel to kill as many Palestinians as possible. They don't care. They want it. It has nothing to do with Judaism and everything to do with American imperialism. That's why it's fucking uniparty. There has to be a reason why they dick ride Israel so hard, though, no? Interpretation, simply ahistoric. With one phone call. Without our unlimited behave in the belligerent ways it does. They realize this too. This kind of deflection, room for insane creates room for insane Jewish blackmail conspiracies. This is silly and simply ahistoric. All right. And then I'm going to add this. I'm predicting you'll be enjoying your food in 15 minutes. No, you're wrong. I'm responding to that person. I'm going to say this is silly and simply ahistoric. Biden stopped Israel in 2021 with one phone call without our unlimited support. Without our unlimited support, Israel cannot behave in the belligerent ways it does. They realize this too. This kind of cynical deflection creates room for insane Jewish blackmail conspiracies. Hasanabi reply guys right now. Yeah, no, they are in this completely untenable position where they're literally saying what Israel's doing is wrong, but we're just like powerless to stop it. Okay, why the fuck Trump is live talking questions, taking questions.
Any questions, please? I think probably. What has sports meant to you? And did you have a sports hero growing up?
Maybe Lawrence Taylor. I don't know. It could be Lawrence. Or I know him so well.
What the fuck? Is that Triple H?
Well, a lot of sports heroes. It meant a lot. I was always a person that loved playing sports. I was good at sports.
What is this subtitle?
When you were really focused on sports, you thought about nothing else. There was nothing else outside. It kept you. And to an extent, this is one of the reasons I like golf. You get away for a couple of hours. I play quickly and get through it. And for 2 hours, you're not thinking about all of the nonsense and all of the important things, frankly, but cleans your mind. No, I think sports is so important. I think what this council is doing is going to be very important. And it gives you a little exercise, sometimes a lot of exercise. It's a great thing. It's a great thing. Sports are, you learn about people and you learn about how people compete. Now, it doesn't mean that if somebody's not a good athlete, a lot of people just are not good athletes, so they can't compete. But you learn about people playing sports and playing sports with and against some. So I've always loved it. It's been very important to me. These people are, inspirations. These are the top people in their individual sports. The council itself, I mean, they have some of the greatest champions, for the most part, the greatest champions in their sport. So they really understand sports, and understanding it's very important. Thank you for the question. Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, by me, yeah. It's a private thing. Yeah, I'll do it, and we'll probably have some donors or whatever, but it's about $200 million. So we've been planning it for a long time. They've wanted a ballroom at the White House for more than 150 years, but there's never been a president that was good at ballrooms. I'm really good. In fact, I looked at one that we just built in Turnberry in Scotland, and it's incredible. We're good at building. I'm good at building things, and we'll get it built quickly and on time. It'll be beautiful, top of the line. We've retained the best architects and engineers, everything else. It'll be built over on the east side, and it will be beautiful. It'll be views of the Washington Monument. It won't interfere with the current building.
Who's the tall gay guy? Harrison Buttkicker.
Near it, but not touching it.
New ballroom is sponsored by Crypto. I love that.
Which I'm the biggest fan of. It's my favorite. It's my favorite place. I love it. But they've wanted it, and when they have big events, you entertain the president of China or the president of any place, and you have big crowds. They've always had to get a tent.
Interesting that he said this was his favorite athlete. Lawrence Taylor sued by girl he paid for underage sex. Oh my God!
And the tent's 100 yards. That's more than a football field away from the main entrance. And people are slopping down to the tent. It's not a pretty sight. The women with their lovely evening gowns, all of their hair all done, and they're a mess by the time they get. And they've always wanted to have it. And I said, in the first term, I said, if I get another shot at this, I'm going to do a ballroom. I was pretty busy in the first because I was running the country, and I was also fighting for survival with all of the lunatics I had to beat. But it worked out, obviously, it worked out very well because here we are. But I always said I was going to do something about the ballroom because they should have one. So we'll be leaving it. It'll be a great legacy project, and I think it'll be special. You saw some renderings of the initial. I think it'll be really beautiful. No government told us, no.
The family, at the time, did you know why he was taking those young women, including Virginia?
No, I didn't know. I mean, I would figure it was ABC fake news that would ask that question, one of the worst. But no, I don't know really why. But I said, if he's taking anybody from Mar-a-Lago, he's hiring or whatever he's doing. I didn't like it, and we threw him out. We said we don't want him, at the place. This is a story that's been known for many years, as you know. But it's, I didn't like it that he was doing that. Yeah, please. Say it again. Well, we're going to see. No, I didn't like what they said, but, that's their opinion. I didn't like that. Not a deal breaker, but we haven't spoken to Canada today. He's called, and we'll see. But we have made a few deals today that are excellent deals for the country. We're taking in literally trillions of dollars for the country.
Why is Triple H there? Because it's Triple K,
making our country
baby.
very rich and respected again. We have, I tell these people, and I say it as much as I have to say it, but every leader is at NATO, and I was in the Middle East with the three great countries, three great leaders. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and everybody said the same thing. All of the NATO countries, essentially, they said that we were a dead country.
Is Howard
1 year ago, we
Butkiss
were a dead country.
and
Now we're the
Harrison
hottest country in the
Butkiss,
world.
or
Look
Howard
at you
Nuttlich
people.
and Harrison
We're the hottest
Butkiss.
country anywhere in the world. We're doing great. Yeah, do you have
You got Triple K. You got Mind Lolly JD Vance in the
they have
corner.
to pay a fair rate.
RFK
That's all.
Jr.
It's very simple. They have been charging very, very high tariffs to our farmers, some over 200%. And
Who's
they've been
Triple K?
treating our
The
farmers
bald
very
guy
badly.
that
They've been
looks
treating our
like-
country very badly for years.
That looks like
and
like
look,
Tom
we-
Homan
we
after
like
getting a
Canada.
skin
I
graft.
love Canada. I have so many friends in Canada. But they've been very poorly led. They've been very, very poorly led. And all we want is fairness for our country. That's all. They want to be under the...
You mean Triple H? No, Triple
as we
K.
call it, the Golden Dome.
KKK.
And I said, well, you're going to have to pay for that. They want a lot of things from our country, and for years we did it. We basically protect them with our military. They spend very little money on their military, as you know. not an acceptable amount of money. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Looks like they're auctioning off RFK. They're like, here, we got a good one here. He sounds a little weird and he smells horrible, but he's a good one. You should buy him.
Well, we've been winning all along, just so you know.
This law in your first term, you could have taken in.
Yeah, because in my first term, I was fighting lunatics like you who were trying to do things incorrectly and inappropriately to a president that was duly elected. And we did do certain tariffs in the first term. If you look at China, we took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China. But when COVID came, the last thing I was going to do is tell France and Italy and Spain and a couple of other countries that we're going to hit you with tariffs. We had to fight the COVID situation when that came. But if you look at my first term, we took in hundreds of billions of dollars worth of tariffs, but you people didn't cover it very well. Yeah, please. Go ahead.
Do you plan to re-engage diplomatically with Iran, go with direct talks with them, or are you happy with the current situation, having no deal with Iran?
Well, Iran has been acting very badly. They were decimated. Their nuclear capability, that potential, which could have happened within 3 or 4 weeks, was decimated. It's been obliterated. The Atomic Energy Commission said the place is just decimated. Now they can start again. But they'd start in different sites because they were hit. I tell you what, the job these pilots did with their B-2 bombers, those unbelievable machines, they traveled 36 hours without stop, and they hit every single target. Every bomb hit they went right down the chutes. And then, as you know, we shot 30 rockets from submarines that were hundreds of miles away, and they hit every target. So they can start again, but they haven't been saying the right thing. I will say Iran has not been saying the right thing. They have not been speaking nicely, and they should be. Yeah, please. Well, he is. We call him Too Late. He's Too Late. It's his new nickname. He's Too Late, pal. He's terrible, the Federal Reserve Chairman. Not only that, he's building a building. He's at $2.9 billion. It's actually 3.1 if you include other areas that are essentially the same thing. Way over budget, has no idea what he's doing. And I would say he's probably good at that compared to what he does with interest rates. But, you know, we have him there, and it was a mistake. I put him in, and then Biden extended him. And Biden only extended him because he knew I couldn't stand him. And that turned out to be not a good thing for Biden. Although he did lower interest rates just prior to the election. Didn't work out too well for them. But he did lower them pretty substantially just prior to the election. No, he's a political hack, not very good. He's not a smart guy, Brian.
Mr. President, sports fans have been very supportive to go back to the original names of the Cleveland Indians, the Washington Redskins.
Oh, I love that. Love the sound of that.
Well,
I do the Washington Redskins. I think they should do it. I told the mayor and I told people that they should bring back the name. If they bring back the name, you'll have a lot of excitement. And, I mean, Cleveland Indians, how about that? That was an original franchise, 1903 or something, 1906, an original, the Cleveland Indians. And what do? They changed the name from Indians. What's wrong with the word Indian? You know who is upset about it? The Indians are upset about it. They're upset about Redskins, too. So Redskins, I guess you'd say, it was a little bit.
No, I don't know about that. I think, like, Indians, sure, maybe. You know, there's multitudes. The indigenous communities have different opinions on this designation.
Now,
but definitely not that last one, dude.
What are they to Commanders or something? Is it Commanders? That's not a good name.
Not that it matters. This is an irrelevant fucking distraction.
Wait a minute. No, not you. You.
I'll say this much. I've heard a lot of Native Americans refer to themselves as Indians. I've never heard them refer to themselves as Redskins.
Do an interview.
I've never. That's a slur. That's just straight up. That's just insane.
You know, I had two of them.
A lot of black people, they want to be called colored. A lot of black people. And the other word, I won't say, but they like it. They like the slur.
Nobody knew her last name, Harris. They said, we're going to get Vice President Harris. Everyone said, who the hell is Harris? They only knew her by the first name. But no, I thought she was a terrible candidate. Look, don't forget, she didn't really get the nomination. I mean, that whole nomination was strange. She was the first one out. You know, she took a good a good amount of points with her when she
Like,
announced, but nobody
the term
once they got to know her,
the term Redskins is so wild that even when you say white skins, it sounds off.
She was like in second or
Okay,
third place.
that's how wild of a term it is.
I don't know. I mean, she
under
I
like
wouldn't
it
call her a
usually
skilled
when you say something, when you reverse it and like put white on it, it doesn't. It's not supposed to be like, oh, that's a weird thing you just said. But white skins even fucking sounds insane. It's like very visceral.
Everything in politics interesting. I sort of enjoy politics.
It's just crazy.
She wasn't a skilled person. You have skilled politicians, really skilled politicians, and then you have some that aren't. And she was put in a very tough position, I think. She did have a 6-week honeymoon. They were told me, the pros said, you know what, she's going to have a 6-week. And she did. She was like untouchable in terms of everybody thought great. But she didn't do any interviews or anything, which was strange. Not even friendly interviews with friendly reporters like her right there, a really friendly reporter. And you know what happened? People said, what's wrong with her? Why isn't she doing? She made a mistake. She should have done interviews. She didn't run a great campaign, but we beat Biden, and then we had to beat, nobody's beaten two. I had to beat two. That's like Dana White. The great Dana White has a fight, and he has a fighter that's getting the hell knocked out of him. They say, well, let's take him out and put somebody else in. Didn't seem fair to me at the time, but where are we? We're in the White House. So, I mean, so it worked out.
By your logic, redneck is a slur. It literally used to be, but I don't think you know the actual etymology of it.
Russia? I think it's disgusting what they're doing.
But redneck in and of itself is about a specific subsect of white working class people.
But I think what Russia's doing is very sad. A lot of Russians are dying. You have a lot of Russians, more Russians are dying, but Russians are dying, Ukrainians are dying.
Classist, pejorative.
The United States isn't really involved in that war. It shouldn't be. And by the way, I made a deal with NATO where NATO pays us for everything that we send. We send them ammunition, missiles, etc. And we're not paying anything for that war. But I will tell you this: it should be stopped. It's a disgrace. And the ones that are dying are they're losing 7,000 now. It was 5,000. They're losing now 7,000 soldiers a week, Ukrainian soldiers and Russian soldiers. And they're also losing people now in the towns and cities because Putin's hitting them with rockets. No, I think it's disgraceful. Yeah, we have about 8 guys. Yeah, we're going to put sanctions. I don't know that sanctions bother him. They know about sanctions. I know better than anybody.
Triple H there, bro? He looks like he's asking that same question to himself right now.
That has any effect,
Triple K is there because he's Triple K.
Europe is extremely upset. But this is a war that should have never happened. This is a war that wouldn't have happened if I were president. And this is Biden's war. This was a stupid war to get into. Should have never gotten into this war.
Biden's war.
Yeah, going to Israel, and then he's going to Russia, believe it or not.
Has said that what is occurring there is a genocide. Do you agree?
Oh, it's terrible what's occurring there, yeah. It's a terrible thing. People are very hungry. The United States gave $60 million for food. And it's a shame because nobody, I don't see the results of it. And we gave it to people that in theory are watching over it fairly closely. We wanted Israel to watch over it. Part of the problem is Hamas is taking the money and they're taking the food. But we gave $60 million a couple of weeks ago. Nobody said anything about it. Nobody said thank you. But I didn't need the thank you. I just wanted the people to get fed. And we're helping out financially with that situation. It's a terrible situation. So just to conclude, I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank you for being here. This is a great group of people, and it's a good feeling. When we first came to office, this country was really in trouble, and now we're rich as hell, and we're doing amazing things, and we really are. We're the hottest country in the world, and I like that. Thank you very much, everybody.
Why the fuck
thank
is Triple H there? It's over. It's over, dude. It's over. Wait, did he not deny that Israel was doing a genocide? Is that what happened? He was invited to be present for Trump's executive order bringing back the presidential fitness test in schools. Oh, I didn't notice that. He didn't say no. I mean,
this country was really in. It's a thank you. I just wanted to people anything about it. Nobody would Israel to watch over people that in the United States get occurring there.
What is occurring there is a genocide. Do you agree?
Oh, it's terrible what's occurring there. Yeah.
Oh, he didn't go. It's not a genocide, dude. What the fuck, dude? If Trump says it's a genocide before Bernie, I'm losing it. I'm losing my mind. Okay.
It's a terrible thing. People are very hungry. The United States gave $60 million for food, and
He's just brandonizing. He's brandonizing. The $60 million for food is for GHF. It literally wasn't for food.
Shame, because nobody, I don't see the results of it. And we gave it to people that in theory are watching over it fairly closely. We wanted Israel to watch over it. Part of the problem is Hamas is taking the money and they're taking the food.
Oh my God. Shut the fuck up, dude. Isn't that crazy that these guys all seemingly have the same exact opinion? Regardless of whatever part of the political spectrum that they're on, it's always, but Hamas, from liberals all the way down to some of the most far-right reactionaries. Everybody always goes, but Hamas, what can you do? Hamas, Hamas, Hamas. Do you guys actually fucking hate Trump then? Like, I don't understand. I guess it's more honest to say you love Trump. You love what Trump is doing in Israel and Gaza. You know? Are you familiar with Boston Consulting Group and their role in designing the GHF sites? Yes, I am. They've also tried to walk back their involvement. A lot of people very quickly tried to walk back their involvement with the Gaza Holocaust Foundation aid scheme that they had designed. So you gave people to Gaza literally $60 million. Come on, how do people believe this? No, he's lying. It's $60 million that they funded with the GHF, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which has been this aid delivery scheme that they created to at least have some kind of plausible deniability that like Israel was not denying aid, but because they are so fucking bloodthirsty, they just kept killing people every single day. To this day, Israeli soldiers alongside American mercenaries are shooting at Palestinian children that are trying to desperately get aid. There is literally a Green Beret that came back, Tony Aguilar, that came back, who believed all of the nonsense about like Hamas is evil and blah, 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 who went out there, who served alongside the IDF as a fucking mercenary and was shocked. Like a Green Beret that is a mercenary was shocked at how depraved Israel's actions are. He's fucking pro-Israel. He was pro-Israel. Like, think about that. Why isn't that the headlines? I wonder why. I wonder why the only places that he's gotten interviewed is like Democracy Now! Or Senator Chris Van Hollen or people like that. I mean, he has gotten some interviews in mainstream media. But it's shocking levels of depravity that you only read about in history books. Hear the Tucker interview today? Okay, we'll look at that later. Yeah, also, it's not even 60 million. It's 30 million. I've been saying this as well. Shouts out to Humeira for correcting this. Trump said on Monday that the U.S. has dispensed $60 million for Gaza humanitarian aid. The State Department, however, has not announced any funds beyond the $30 million. U.S. officials believe Trump was likely conflating the U.S. and Israeli funds. Yes. Most likely it was a half and half initiative because it's Israel and America both funding it. And Trump is such a fucking baboon that he just said, oh, it's 60 million. We're giving 60 million because he's conflating what is most likely the Israeli figure as well. I already covered the Chris Van Hollen clip yesterday. Chatters, you don't have to spam that link. Anyway, getting back to people being like, people talking back and forth amongst themselves about like who's supporting what and who's not going hard enough on their support for Palestinians. There's obviously a conversation that took place between Mehdi Hassan and Jeremy Ben Ami, who is the president of J Street. Democrats, about how Democrats should evolve on U.S. policy towards Israel, condition or cut off weapons, even Iron Dome. Should Dems use the term genocide if it turns off allies? We'll get to that in a second as Steve Witkoff arrives in Israel again.
He'll also want to tackle the deepening humanitarian crisis. And an American doctor working in Gaza has urged Mr.
What is this? All you have to say is classic redirect. The terrorists are the ones taking the money and the food and killing off the Palestinians. Yeah, exactly. They are. The terrorist state of Israel and the ISIS affiliates that the terrorist state of Israel has armed to the fucking teeth, the popular forces, as they call themselves, led by illiterate ISIS affiliate drug trafficker Yasser Abu Shabab. Those are the guys who actually loot the fucking aid before it gets to the point of delivery. That's when Israel even allows the aid to get to the point of delivery. But I don't know if that's what you're talking about. But that is what's the reality, okay? That is what's going on, actually. But don't worry. 6 months later, you'll arrive at that fucking conclusion too. When you go, oh, how could this have happened? Oh, I am, lol. I'm being sarcastic. Okay.
Mr. Witkoff to come and see the situation for himself. And a warning, this report from Sky's Sally Lockwood contains images of those injured in the violence and also malnourished children.
These are scenes it's hoped Trump's envoy reports back to Washington. A hospital in Nusrat.
No, Yasser Abu Shabab is not a New York Crimes article writer. He's a Wall Street Journal article writer. He's an article head. Even though he's fucking illiterate, literally dropped out of 2nd grade. Why are you so triggered today? Tooth pain still? No, man, I'm fucking triggered by stupidity. Like, dude, you want to know why I'm still so mad? One, because of what's in front of me, okay? What I've covered for the past 22 months, every single fucking day. That's number one. Number two, even as people come to the recognition that we have been at, okay? Even though people are coming to that recognition slowly, far too slow, their expectation is like that we take them seriously when they turn around and say, oh, well, it's your fault that it took me this long to realize that Palestinians are human beings and they're being starved to death. It's fucking insane. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I welcome you with open arms. I'm so sorry that I made you feel weird. I made you feel weird when you kept defending Israel. I'm so sorry that you had to do genocide denial because your feelings were hurt or because you were scared about the language that I was using. Oh, no, you were a Holocaust denier? Oh, man. How is this any different than people being like, I got bullied into being a Nazi? People got, the woke side got too woke. And then I became a Hitler-heiling Nazi. Okay, fuck you.
In central Gaza, receiving casualties, reportedly killed and injured, trying to get food from an aid site run by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. This father crying over the body of his eldest son. He had a master's degree in political science and international relations, he says. And he died looking like a corpse, crawling to find flour. And this is a story we are seeing every day. People dying trying to get food. People dying because they haven't had any for too long.
I only went to this aid point because my children were starting to look for food on the ground in the street. I've lost 25 kilos. Until now, there's nothing. I have to collect whatever grains and chickpeas I find thrown on the ground. I grind them and eat them.
We're receiving reports like this every day of people dying at aid sites in Gaza. Aid sites backed by America and Israel. Donald Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff is back in Israel for the first time in 3 months, meeting Benjamin Netanyahu, and Israeli media is reporting he may pay a visit to an aid site in Gaza while he's here. It's little coincidence Steve Witkoff is here now. A small but vocal contingent of Donald Trump's base is growing increasingly angry over Gaza. It's felt America, Israel's closest ally, is the only country with the power to pressure Netanyahu to change course. And in an unprecedented move, Arab nations are calling on Hamas to lay down their weapons and surrender control of Gaza.
This is why it's annoying when the Arab League comes out and is like, the Arab League comes out and as the cowardly allies of Israel and America that they are, and go, hey, after an unprecedented amount of violence, after this live stream Holocaust that has unfolded against all Palestinians, the death toll probably in the hundreds of thousands at this point, we still don't know. What you should do is surrender your arms and make it easier for Israel to kill you, kill the rest of you? Like, what are we talking about? It's ridiculous. It's also ridiculous when this conversation takes place for Ukraine. And I'm consistent on this position. One of Russia's major points that they've pushed for with Donald Trump was Ukraine to demilitarize. That is completely unacceptable. That is completely ridiculous. And I said it as such. People think, oh, Hassan, you're so pro-Russia, you're so pro-Russia. What the fuck do you mean I'm pro-Russia? It's ridiculous. It is insane. You have no sovereignty without arms. So now you got the Arab League saying this. And people don't understand that the Arab League plays this formative role here. They plays the role of America's interest. They are expressing America's desires and Israel's desires here. But of course, people who are not super tuned in to what is going on, that are trying to contend with what's happening here, will go, oh, well, they're Arabs too. Yeah. Moen Rabbani wrote on this. Now that France and Britain, both members of the United Nations Security Council and G7, have indicated they are prepared to recognize the state of Palestine, the dam has burst. Today, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney indicated his government too intends to recognize Palestine during the upcoming session of the UN General Assembly in New York, and a growing number of Western states are adopting or preparing similar positions. It is far from certain whether any of these governments will actually follow through on their statements of intent, and by attaching various conditions to their plans, they've already provided themselves with an escape clause, should they find it necessary to use it. Given that a two-state settlement has been the official position of every one of these governments for several decades, and that a majority of states have already recognized Palestine years, if not decades ago, the question arises as to why Western states have waited so long to recognize the state, without which their proclaimed strategic objective is an impossibility. One reason relates to their domestic politics and the profound transformation of Western public opinion. Brian Tyler Cohen calls the left anti-Semitic. What? I mean, there are a lot of liberal content creators who have cozied up to the likes of a sex pest like Destiny and have been noticeably absent from the conversation when it comes to Israel. Okay? They've been noticeably absent from that conversation. Who cares? One reason is because, like I've also said, the sea change in Western public opinion. The shift has been building over many years, and this is the harvest of a continued, persistent efforts by countless individuals and organizations to bring about changes in official policy. In large parts, thanks to their campaigns, the impact of the Gaza genocide on their public opinion manifested itself much more rapidly and much more broadly than would otherwise have been the case. It is safe to conclude that this change is now irreversible, similar to that experienced by South Africa after the 1960 Sharpeville massacre. In response, governments, this is his Substack, by the way, that he is just like putting out piece by piece. In response, governments have felt compelled to act. Most have chosen the symbolic and comparatively cost-free approach of recognition. They have done so in large part to avoid adopting concrete measures like an arms embargo, trade sanctions, or diplomatic isolation. But in doing so, they've also demonstrated that the pressures generated by protracted public campaigns can and do produce results, and can indeed force governments to change course. And that is precisely why I say this is good, because it expands on the permission. Okay? It shows people, it gives people confidence that their voices do matter a little bit. And when you give people a little bit of confidence, they're going to continue putting pressure. No one that was pro-Palestine, whether before October 7 or after October 7, was going to fucking turn around and go, all right, I guess it's time to get back to brunch. Palestine has never been a brunch liberal issue. As a matter of fact, there are a couple things that I point to in advocacy, in American politics, in the Western world, where someone takes a position that most people refuse to take. Criminal justice reform is one of those issues. When I see someone that is actively advocating to reduce sentences for criminals, to make sure that they have a more humane treatment in prison, I immediately know you're taking on an issue that no one is going to be on board with. Palestine is the other one. Trans issues, to a certain degree, is also in this category, where there are still, that gets a little bit convoluted, though, because there are liberals who behave like allies and will focus on the optics alone. But like, those are some of the few issues. Homelessness too, yes. Like, some of the most fucked over people in American society. When I see someone who actually cares about these people, I know that they are taking on a role that most people would not take on. These are some of the most voiceless people, okay, in perpetuity. So this is precisely the reason why the pro-Palestinian crowd is not going to somehow magically stop. They're not the brunch crowd. They're not going to go, okay, well, we got our wishes. There is state recognition for Palestine. No, people are still getting killed. Children are still being starved. There's no way that these guys are going to stop. As a matter of fact, you're giving them confidence to continue. And you should. You should never stop the pressure until Palestine is free. The continuation and intensification of these campaigns is therefore now more justified and necessary than ever. They will now even be more focused on compelling these governments to take active measures to end their complicity in Israel's crimes, to bring these crimes to an end. Just like I said, in 2021, it was a turning point in my experience over the past 12 years that I've been a, open advocate for Palestinian emancipation as a professional media personality. I saw an attitude shift in 2021. It wasn't just because of Israeli depravity in one of their many sieges. It was also because NGOs in unison, including B'Tselem, openly recognized Israel as an apartheid regime. This was a major turning point because this opened up the floodgates. This expanded the permission structure of what you could say without immediately being fucking shut down. Slowly but surely, people tirelessly kept working. Many Palestinians that live in diaspora, many Palestinians that communicate the desires of their immediate family members that are still living in Gaza or the West Bank, they turned around and kept up their advocacy. And slowly but surely, that momentum built. That momentum kept building. Eventually, after October 7, a lot of people tuned into what was going on in Israel. They were shocked. They were horrified by the atrocities that they saw. Okay? But then Israel very quickly dropped all pretext that this was like a justifiable war. And in that process, over the course of the past 22 months, more and more people that have paid attention to the death and destruction that Israel is committed to have begun to recognize that perhaps maybe these guys are exterminationists and they had no reason to do any of these things. And in that process, they learned about the apartheid. In that process, they learned about Zionism. In that process, they learned about the way that Israeli society views these actions. Okay? It's that simple. It takes a long time, but as long as people continue the pressure, more and more people will come on board. That's why I don't immediately cast aside people who are like, I'm a latecomer to this. I'm an ally now, but I'm a latecomer to this. I still have some hangups. Because there was a point in time when there was no one. This was an incredibly lonely cause. Palestinians had no one that advocated for them, okay? No one, not even a little bit. That's why I'm always so still to this day shocked by how much support there is for the Palestinian conditions right now. It's obviously still not enough. A liberal Zionist I had once knew IRL recently shared on his social The Guardian open letter for crippling sanctions against Israel. I never imagined I'd see the day when liberal Zionists advocate for BDS. Yeah. Many people did not understand the truth. They did not understand the full extent of the history, but now they do. Toothpaste is out of the fucking tube. Can't put it back in. Cat's out of the bag. A second reason Western governments are not acting on recognition is that Israel's words and actions have backed them into a corner and left them with no choice. For decades, Western governments have treated two-state settlement and Palestinian state not as policies requiring concrete actions in order to bring them about, but rather as political slogans under the cover of which Israel was permitted to turbocharge its efforts to annex Palestinian territory and dispossess its inhabitants with the express purpose of making a two-state settlement impossible, which is precisely what they did. 750,000 Jewish settlers now living in occupied East Jerusalem and also the West Bank. This has made it unmanageable. The two-state solution is a lie. It was just a way to keep pushing the conversation further and further away as Israel continued to displace, ethnically cleanse the land of the Palestinians in the West Bank illegally. It has been a de facto single state, an apartheid state, for quite a while. That's why I call it the so-called peace process. Western governments could deflect pressure to confront its annexationist activities on the pretext that doing so would undermine the Israeli-Palestinian negotiations and thus the consummation of a two-state settlement. The peace process had to be kept alive at all costs. In this Kafkaesque world, the two-state settlement served as a fig leaf for its elimination. As Israel shifted even further to the extreme right, that situation has become increasingly untenable. With the Gaza genocide, it has become simply impossible to sustain as Israeli leaders, all of them today, openly speak of their intention to collectively expel the Palestinians it has not killed yet from the Gaza Strip, to annex the West Bank, and to ensure a Palestinian state is never established. It is official Israeli government policy. In his official statement regarding Canada's new position, Prime Minister Mark Carney explicitly referenced Israel's actions not only in the Gaza Strip, but particularly in the West Bank as justifications. These include accelerated settlement building across the West Bank and East Jerusalem, the E1 settlement plan, and this month's vote by the Knesset calling for the annexation of the West Bank and soaring settler terrorism. That part is actually pretty important. Mark Carney has definitely, regardless of the wishy-washy, both sides bullshit, two-state advocacy that he engaged in, those direct lines of attack against what Israel is doing, naming and shaming the actual fucking policies, was certainly different than what Keir Starmer did, which was the worst out of all of these fucking Western leaders, and definitely better than even Macron, even though Macron had the first Q7, Kid Starver and Macron. What is happening? Jesus Christ, I'm dying. Yeah, the fucking banker actually hit a better line overall. Like its predecessors, Canada recognized that its continued embrace of a two-state settlement and Palestinian statehood while supporting these only with empty slogans had become at best a nonsensical and politically costly. Israeli extremism left Ottawa and other Western capitals with two and only two options: recognize Palestine or endorse formal Israeli annexation. In addition to other factors, last year's International Court of Justice advisory opinion that Israeli rule in occupied territories is illegal and must end as rapidly as possible would have complicated formal recognition of Israeli annexation. A third reason for the recognition of Palestinian statehood is the failure of the alternative formulated by the first Trump administration, Arab-Israeli normalization as a substitute for the Palestinian self-determination. Rather than promote Arab-Israeli normalization as the icing on the cake of a two-state settlement, the grandiloquently entitled Abraham Accords were designed to weaken, isolate, and ultimately marginalize the Palestinians. And that's precisely what they saw. They essentially aimed to remove the question of Palestine from the regional as well as the international agenda with official Arab support. That is one of the major reasons why October 7 happened. This is something that I have brought up when I talked to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She agreed with me on this as well. I don't know where that opinion went after that, but this is precisely the case. The Abraham Accords left Palestinians isolated with no options other than to fight back. This is precisely the reason why October 7 happened. It was a major, major part of the puzzle, major part of the reason beyond the regular Israeli depravity, like the regular policies of Israel that was so devastating for overall Palestinian existence. Okay? That's why I say Trump 1 played a formative role. But the problem is Biden continued Trump 1. Biden continued the Abraham Accords. Biden could have, at some point, put an end to this. Biden could have demanded that Israel scale back, but it didn't, because Biden is just as pro-Israel as Donald Trump is. That's it.
If Trump's envoy does visit Gaza, it's unlikely he'll see here Nasser Hospital, where healthy children are fainting from hunger and those with chronic conditions are wasting away from malnutrition. An American pediatrician working here had this response to the claim that there's no famine in Gaza.
This is an absolute lie. This is absolutely not true, because I've seen that with my own eyes. And I would like to have Mr. Witkoff come here and talk to me to my face, and I'll show him.
Just look at this. An aid lorry arriving in Gaza, and it's pure chaos. This is what happens when desperation takes over. It's hoped America's visit will be a moment that finally makes the difference. Sally Lockwood, Sky News, Jerusalem.
I know the topic of Israel is on everyone's mind. I have an update from Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, who I got off the phone with this morning. Special Envoy Witkoff and Ambassador Huckabee had a very productive meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu and other officials today in Israel on the topic of delivering much-needed food and aid to Gaza. President Trump is a humanitarian with a big heart, and that's why he sent Special Envoy Witkoff to the region in an effort to save lives and end this crisis. Tomorrow, Special Envoy Witkoff and Ambassador Huckabee will be traveling into Gaza to inspect the current distribution sites and secure a plan to deliver more food and meet with local Gazans to hear firsthand about this dire situation on the ground. The Special Envoy and the Ambassador will brief the President immediately after their visit to approve a final plan for food and aid distribution into the region, and we will provide more details for all of you once that plan is approved and agreed on by the President of the United States. On the trade front, the President secured a historic trade agreement with the European Union that puts America first and fundamentally strengthens the economic relationship between the two largest economies in the world. This deal delivers on two of President Trump's core promises on trade, supercharging America's manufacturing capacity and opening up foreign market access to American businesses. The deal guarantees that American businesses will have unprecedented levels of access to the European Union markets to export our American-made goods.
And now over in the United States, splits have started to emerge within the Republican Party over the U.S.'s blanket support of Israel as well due to the worsening humanitarian situation in Gaza, particularly among members of Donald Trump's MAGA base. For more on this story, we can bring in France 24's former Washington correspondent Ketevan Gojasani. Ketevan, great to see you. Tell us about the splits that's emerged.
Well, look, on Monday evening, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a MAGA far-right representative closely allied with Donald Trump, became the first Republican in Congress to use the word genocide to describe what...
When Bernie says he doesn't want to call it a genocide, he knows the international legal implications that come along with it. Quite simply, they will stand arm in arm. Institutional Dems as avoid the responsibility that comes along with it. Yes, the reason why they won't say it's a genocide is because they recognize their culpability. They recognize that it's illegal to like, it's just impossible, unless you're AOC, to maintain support for a country that you have openly said is doing a genocide. There is no, it's over after that point. It doesn't make sense.
Is happening in Gaza. If we can pull up the post she had on X, she said, it's the most truthful and easiest thing to say that October 7th in Israel was horrific and all hostages must be returned, but so is the genocide, humanitarian crisis, and starvation happening in Gaza. She was responding to a fellow Republican representative, Randy Fine, who had tweeted last week, release the hostages, until then starve away, seemingly talking to the Palestinians. Yesterday, there was another Republican, Thomas Massie. He's more of a critic of Donald Trump, a critic of the pro-Israel lobby, AIPAC, but he is a staunch Republican. He said Israel's war in Gaza is so lopsided that there's no rational argument American taxpayers should be paying for it. These are still minority voices within the Republican Party, especially when it comes to Congress, but it is representative of a shift in the base, in the voters of the Republican Party, and a shift of attitude towards Israel. And you see that especially in the broader MAGA world of the podcasters, the YouTubers, those influencers of MAGA world. Last week, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, he was on set with these two pro-Trump YouTubers, the Nelk boys, very popular with young men, with the young MAGA crowd. There was a huge and unprecedented backlash towards the Nelk boys by their own audience, who are basically accusing them of harboring a war criminal and giving him a platform. You have people like Matt Gaetz, the former MAGA representative, people like Steve Bannon, former advisor to Donald Trump, who are saying that support for Israel is becoming a political liability. And there was the conservative radio host, Megyn Kelly, who I think summed it up pretty well this week. She said, Israel has made itself the villain of the world. They have lost support among their dearest friends.
So what explains the shift that we're seeing?
Well, there are several things that could explain this shift. One, you have to already remember that the Republican Party now is a big tent. You have the traditional GOP, the Grand Old Party, the foreign policy hawks. They see the safety of Israel as a security matter, as key to stability in the Middle East, and therefore in the interest of the United States. They haven't really moved when it comes to Israel. Then you have the evangelicals. They see defending Israel as sort of a biblical duty. And while they still strongly support Israel, they are starting to feel very uncomfortable with the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. And even more so when you have Israel, for example, bombing the church in Gaza, or Israeli settlers in the West Bank attacking Christians in the West Bank. You had Mike Huckabee, who cannot be considered someone who's very friendly to the Palestinians, saying that these attacks on Christians in the West Bank were an act of terror. finally have MAGA and the far right. For them, there's a little bit of anti-Semitism in that crowd, obviously, but also it's mostly about America first, that policy, which is basically, we don't care what happens elsewhere. Why should we be sending millions and billions to the Israelis to help them when we could be spending it at home? And finally, there's also a growing generational divide. You see that among the conservatives, but also among Democrats. Under the age of 40, attitudes toward Israel are shifting, and they're
I'm telling you, for the younger generation, there's a lot of anti-Semitism out there for sure. But I think there are literally just Trump supporters and right-wingers, just as there are Trump supporters and right-wingers who think like, oh, I didn't realize mass deportation of migrants was going to look like this. There are those who literally are not even like anti-Israel from an anti-Semitic perspective, but are simply anti-Israel on the grounds that they're starving children. You know what I mean? Like, even among like older Republicans at this point.
shifting very fast.
Kativan, thank you very much for that. Kativan Gojistani there.
I think that October 7 was hubris and racism more than it was like deliberately a deliberate way to allow Palestinians to kill like Israelis so that they could finalize their ethnic cleansing campaign. There are people who believe this. There are people who think like, oh, it was an inside job, like 9/11, you know? But I know Israeli society. I know what would be allowed and what wouldn't be allowed. They didn't need like 6 hours of killings to take place for them to be geared up for this ethnic cleansing campaign. They didn't. The true positions, there are like suspicious things that happened on that morning. I think ultimately, even if they knew, which of course they knew, there's no way they didn't know, by the way. The fucking Egypt warned them ahead of time. Unit 8200 was directly surveilling the training that was taking place. But what I mean is, I don't think they thought it would be this deadly. That's where the hubris comes in. That's where the racism comes in. Where I do not think that the Israeli administration, the security apparatus, thought that Palestinians, the Palestinian resistance forces, were capable of doing this much damage. Okay? They thought at most maybe a couple hostages, maybe a little bit of a resistance, maybe a couple soldiers died in the process, and then they can use that as a reason to continue conducting like this final push, this big push. That's where I think the racism and the hubris plays a role. Mismanaging troop positions by focusing them over to the West Bank because they were too busy doing ethnic cleansing in the West Bank and allowing the Itamar Ben-Gvir forces to continue doing pogroms in the West Bank. That part is real. That's another, again, that's another aspect to the racism, with the assumption that I think that Palestinians would just never be capable of like holding that many hostages, that many Israeli hostages, break through the security barrier, and successfully conduct a massive military operation. Because like, you have to remember, you have to put yourself in the shoes, in the mindset of like a supremacist. Okay? If you're a white supremacist, for example, a black person being in the vicinity of a white woman is already enough of a scar, right? That's why they fucking hate race mixing. They like cannot comprehend it. They're like, how could this have happened? This is like a stain on the entire white race. Like the fact that these people that have been kept caged in perpetuity, that have been actively dehumanized, were capable of crafting a military operation that took such an unimaginably high death toll from regular Israeli society alongside the Israeli military was a breaking point for a lot of supremacists, okay? And this includes liberal Zionists as well, because the Zionism is an inherently ethno-religious supremacist ideology. I think it's also true that the Israeli security establishment felt that Hamas was not a nationalist force, but a self-interested political org. They thought they had deterred Hamas through enough military action and bribery without realizing that Hamas could not be bought like the PA. I think that probably is a part of the calculation as well. But this wasn't just Hamas. This was the coalition of Palestinian resistance forces. This was literally every single group every single group that has any kind of like military acting in unison. So I think that the yesterday you said 800 civilians died during October 7th, yet I heard Bassem Youssef saying 370. No, it's not 370. It's 800. It's 800 civilians, 400 soldiers. I don't know what he's saying. I don't know why he's saying 370, but it's 1,200 total. Now, of course, in the civilian death toll, we do not know how much of the civilian death toll was born out of Israel's Hannibal directive. Like, how much of that was the helicopter shooting at the cars escaping the Nova Festival, and how much of that was the shelling from the tanks at the kibbutzim? We do not know. But he might be counting IDF veterans as like soldiers too, which they're not. They're not. It doesn't matter. No. That's what Israel fucking claims. That's bullshit. That's what Israel does for Palestinians. They say, oh, you're affiliated with Hamas, the political party. Like, no. Just because someone is an IDF veteran doesn't mean that they were an enemy combatant, chatters. There's a reason. There's a legal designation between a civilian, okay? The proper term, veterans are not active combatants, okay? They're not. Nazi veterans were cool then, right? No, you're being stupid. This doesn't matter. I am talking specifically about the legality, okay? They're not. It's just not how, it's not even relevant to the point that I'm making, but they're just not, okay? Just as Hamas militants that are in hospital are not fucking valid military targets. They're not in fucking battle. You cannot just go into a hospital and kill someone who fought alongside Hamas. You cannot do that. Okay? And I mean like an active duty. Like a dude who is literally in Hamas when they are no longer fighting and they're in a fucking hospital. You can't kill them. That's technically the rules. Not that Israel listens to those rules. So it's not even that you're like no longer active duty, that you're a veteran. Like it doesn't matter. What did this guy say? 90% of your commentary, Grok. Did he do a Grok hit? Did he try to act Grok here? 90% of your chatters use Grok to fact check real facts. How dare you? How dare you say that? Also, you're Jewish. I mean, Kyle isn't, but like that's the one thing. Like you can get away with a lot as a Jewish person in Israel. Like you have to literally be like Norm Finkelstein to not be allowed into the state. Okay. Now, maybe post October 7th, things might have changed a little bit in terms of like anti-Zionist Jews and like how much they're allowed into the state. But like it's a fucking supremacist state. Okay. And because it's a supremacist state, because Zionism is an ethno-religious supremacist attitude. Yeah. When you're Jewish, even if you're like, fuck Israel, Israel can suck my dick, Israel still has limitations on what it will do to you, okay? It's just true. Like, that is the reason why Andre X, who is a Jewish from Ukraine, who went to Israel when Russia invaded Ukraine, who became an anti-Zionist activist, can just go to the West Bank and put his body as a Jew in the West Bank between the IDF and the settlers and the fucking Palestinians. Oh, he's from Russia. Sorry. I thought he was from Ukraine. Like, this is the other side of supremacist attitudes. Okay? The other side of supremacy is that the messenger being Bassem is a poison pill for a lot of their audience should have been a Gabor Mate or Ilan Pape. Ilan Pape is never going on the fucking Nelk Boys. And I suggested Gabor Mate to them. They didn't go with it. And many people, there was no shot that they were getting a Palestinian, okay? I told them that. Don't say, or maybe a Palestinian. What fucking Palestinian? DJ Khaled? What Palestinian would go on the Nelk Boys after they interviewed literally Adolf Hitler? Are you guys crazy? It's like demanding that a Jewish person, or it's like asking a Jewish person during the Holocaust to go on a show after Adolf Hitler was interviewed. Like, what? That's crazy. You just said comparing them to Nazis was wrong. I'm so confused. Wait, what? IDF, not Nazis, though. Don't worry. What? When did I ever say that? I have been comparing the IDF to the Nazis. I have been comparing Israel to Nazi Germany. I've been comparing Zionism to Nazism. What the fuck? Hello? Are you serious? It's like the number one thing that people yell at me about, where they're like, oh, how dare you do that? That's it's hurting my feelings. They're both fascists. They are both fascist, ethno-supremacist ideologies that have a desire to exterminate the outgroup. If you cannot call Israel Nazis, then there is no reason to learn about the Holocaust. Like, why do we learn about the Holocaust? Why do we learn about the Nazis? Why do we learn about how society became far too comfortable with this kind of extermination, how they turned a blind eye to it, if we can't use it as an example when it's happening in real time? What? That you think IDF does not equal Nazis, but your point was about what? Oh, it was the veterans. He was like hyper focusing on yeah, he was hyper focusing on the fucking veterans, like non-active combatants. Yeah, I don't think you can deliberately fucking go and kill inactive combatants. If you want to do that, you could do that through the court of the law. And we were also talking about legality regardless. What the fuck? Also, it ultimately doesn't even matter because, like, once again, people don't even understand. Like, people did not realize the severity of the crimes of the Nazi Holocaust until the camps were liberated. People get a pretty good idea of what Israel's doing. It's not just AIPAC. There's so much pro-Israel institutional control because of Israel's alignment and its role that it plays in American foreign policy in this region. There is no equivalent to what Israel's been able to do because there's no other country that we have utilized in the same way, right? It's not just AIPAC. AIPAC is simply one part of this puzzle. CUFI, Christians United for Israel, is another part of the puzzle, right? But even beyond that, the financial ties directly to Israel by Americans who aren't Jewish, by the way, Jewish Americans as well, but Christian Americans as well, the institutional ties that these institutes of higher learning, for example, have to Israel. Like, it's not, it is a behemoth. It is a massively consequential influence peddling operation alongside financial ties, alongside Israel's role in America's foreign policy goals. There is no other country that gets this treatment. It just isn't. And the only reason why Israel has been able to create this dedicated network of influence peddling is because of it's because of Israel's role in American foreign policy. No other country has ever even been able to come near this level of influence as well. So it's you got the Mearsheimer opinion, and then you got the Chomsky opinion. Chomsky believes it's entirely because of Israel's strategic location, Israel's strategic role in American influence in the region, right, as a destabilizing factor. And then you got the Mearsheimer who says it's the lobby, it's the AIPAC lobby, it's all of the different facets of said lobby, but it's both. I think it's both. One does not exist without the other. Israel being an incredibly important asset to American imperialism in the region only goes so far without a network of influence peddling through lobbying, through advocacy groups, through constantly silencing dissent under the auspices of attacking people as like anti-Semites, you know, a censorship operation, being able to literally craft the only piece of legislation that directly goes against the First Amendment in 37 states as a foreign lobby. Can you imagine being like having anti-BDS laws for like Estonia? Like, it doesn't exist. This is so stupid. Politicians being demanded to take like loyalty pledges to Hungary. Like, you have to. What do you mean? What does, like, the equivalent is right there with Turkey. Turkey is in the region. Turkey is a NATO country. Turkey has the second largest standing military. Could you imagine if there were people like myself running around being like, do you recognize the Armenian genocide? Oh, you do? Why are you being anti-Turkish? Why are you being so anti-Turkish? Do you recognize the Armenian genocide? Why you not love Turkey? Oh, you don't love Turkey? Does Turkey not have a right to exist? Turkey, small nation. No politic here. Oh, I guess you want the Kurds and the Armenians to kill every Turk. You know? That would be ridiculous. That would be fucking ridiculous. Having every politician literally constantly fucking posting about how much they love Turkey. What? That unironically is E's new line of attack. What, Ethan's? I can't even go back to Turkey. What the fuck's this dipshit talking about? If he had the backbone and the moral courage that I had to criticize my own government as he does with Israel, we wouldn't have any fucking problems. What the fuck? Absolute moron. Unless you mean the E is for Eric Adams and not Ethan. Yeah, I'm a nationalist, but also I didn't serve in the Turkish military. And he also said I was a coward for not serving in the Turkish military.
They are tweeting, I stand with Israel, while there are people suffering.
No, the funniest was, what was it? The funniest was when Ireland was working through the process of potentially doing a BDS or something. And then every single American congressman in unison started talking about Irish trade policy. That was such a fucking funny moment. Does anyone have that tweet of like all of the American Congress folk from both parties just talking about like Irish trade policy out of nowhere? Okay, it was fucking hilarious, dude. They were all. It was not. No. It was hundreds of tweets that was the same tweet. Hundreds of different lobbyists and politicians in unison tweeted out the same fucking tweet, like literal copy paste. It was hilarious. It was so stupid. It's like, what is going on? This is so like, what do you mean? Oh, here it is. Ireland's proposed BDS policy is deeply troubling and risks damaging trade with American companies. Israel's a key ally to the U.S. Ireland's proposal to boycott, divest, and sanction Israel is blatantly anti-Semitic and will hurt American companies too. Ireland's draft BDS law is reckless and dangerous precedent. Ireland's proposed ban of Jewish-made products is nothing short of anti-Semitic. Lindsey Graham, I hope Ireland will reconsider their efforts economically to isolate Israel as they are... I don't know what the rest of this is. Ireland's proposal to ban products made in Judea and Samaria wrongfully targets Israel and hurts American businesses. Ireland's proposed legislation targets Jewish communities by singling out settlements tied to Israel. Yeah, day two. I love this. I love when he posted this. Yeah, it was this guy that posted it originally. Wow, I love to see all this organic passion for Irish trade policy in the United States Congress. Day two of members of Congress completely independently deciding that they are highly concerned about Irish trade policy vis-a-vis the West Bank. It's like, I mean, come on, dude. What are we doing? What are we doing here? What an organic movement. What an organic movement this was. You don't understand. You see, American Republican congresspersons care about one thing and one thing only. Okay, nope. You thought I was going to say Israel. No, that's wrong. They care about Irish trade policy. That's the one thing that they care about. Do you understand? Day two of members of Congress completely independently deciding that they are highly concerned about Irish trade policy vis-a-vis the West Bank. Oh, man, it's so good. Also, this is the funniest. This is what they're posting. This is like such a funny thumbnail for that article. Ireland will regret its anti-Israel boycott. Like, it's like Benjamin Netanyahu saying that angrily. Just as I said, for the record, there are people asking me about like, oh, what do you think the impact of this interview is? Do you think this will like save the Nelk boys or whatever? Just as I said about the Benjamin Netanyahu interview that didn't actually help Benjamin Netanyahu and it only hurt the Nelk boys, I think this Bassem Youssef interview doesn't help the Nelk boys necessarily, but it's good overall for their audience to hear exactly the financial entanglements look like between America and Israel. Like this is a great educational 1 hour podcast because it helps people. It helps people who are like against Israel understand truly why they should be against Israel. Because many people just like jump on trends. Okay. And as I've said, it's fuck Israel o'clock, right? That's what it is. That's what time it is. Everybody sees it. Everybody recognizes it. And I'm sure there are plenty of people that are just simply saying it because they've heard others say it. I'm sure there's plenty of people who just like only have seen maybe a couple of the starving children or whatever, and that was enough for them, and that's fine. You don't have to be a fucking scholar to know that genocide is wrong, right? But this helps a lot of people truly understand what the magnitude of criminality is. This helps people understand like what the incentives are. Okay, what's happening here that is the reason for why America is so attached to the hip. It gives them the tools to properly communicate why they're saying. I'm not seeing anything on Google about Israeli pedophiles. Brother, literally search Haaretz pedophile safe haven Israel. Actually, let's do it right now. Exposing pedophilia and legal failures in Israel. CBS News, how Jewish American pedophiles hide from justice in Israel. Tip of the iceberg from Haaretz. How foreign sex offenders find refuge in Israel. Jerusalem Post. Israel is trying to legalize pedophilia. Like, I know that like criticizing Israel sometimes takes this weird turn where it literally sounds like you're being anti-Semitic. Okay? I get it. I totally understand. Okay, last part. And this is the final thing that you need to know. Leonardo DiCaprio to open hotel in Israel. It's over. It's over. Lock it down. He had to find the youngest country. South Sudan is technically the youngest country. Okay, sorry. Yeah, y'all stole that. Y'all stole that joke from Twitter. But yeah, it's just like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, I get it. When you sometimes hear something that's like in practice in Israel, you go, what? Like, did you make that up? Like, oh, you're saying the Jewish state is doing this? And it's like sometimes it's good to just Google it and then maybe you find out that they are doing this, you know? But I do understand why most people, when they first hear about it, go, yeah, like, Israel is an insane right-wing fascist country. So when you describe Israel as an insane right-wing fascist country, which it is, when you describe the things that Israel does, it comes across as insane because you're like, there's no fucking way. There is no way that is happening. What are you saying? And it's like, and then you look into it and you're like, oh my God, it's not made up. What the fuck? I thought you were a liar until you showed the ad for the Cum Brigade Live. Oh my God, that was another one. Yeah. The whole like, Israel has a semen extraction squad, post-mortem semen extraction squad, specifically where they go in and like extract the semen from fallen Israeli occupying force soldiers so they can give that semen to their wives so they can keep having Jewish children. That is a real thing that the Israeli government has in operation. The goon platoon. That's the type of shit you do when you are a eugenicist fascist country. You know, Jewish, Christian, atheist, doesn't fucking matter. If you have like a eugenicist, supremacist ideology, that's the kind of stuff you get involved in. Or, I don't know, the pro-rape January 6th riots that they did in Israel. But yeah, Israel is our greatest ally, of course. Just like ISIS is the embodiment of all the Islamophobic tropes with no support from most governments, Israel is the embodiment of the anti-Semitic tropes with full support from most governments. Yeah, Israel does do a lot of stuff that you would normally think is possibly blood libel. You're like, nah, that's not true. Get the fuck out of here. You're being ridiculous. And then you literally Google it and you're like, oh my God, that is literally true. What the fuck is going on? That's why I'm saying, like, my hatred for Israel did not fucking develop overnight for no reason. Many of you that have been in here for a very long time, know that I abhor anti-Semitism. I think it's disgusting. It's bigoted. It's fucking ridiculous. So why is it that I have this perspective on Israel? Perhaps it's because I do not actually consider Israel to be abiding by the Jewish faith or doing right by Jews in general, and simply a Jewish ethno-religious supremacist ideology that is exterminationist. Yeah, there's also a tint of white supremacy associated with this as well. Early on, obviously, before Israel realized there simply wasn't enough like white Ashkenazi descent Jews to fill up the entire population of this area that they wanted to populate. At first, the whole, the idea was met with a little bit of negativity. Like, why are you letting in these fucking Arab Jews into the country? It's kind of crazy to think about now, especially because like Yemeni Jews, for example, or who were incredibly mistreated by Israeli society broadly. But like, it's not. But that's at the heart of fascism. Like, that's at the heart of all fascist ideology. Eventually, when you run out of targets to exterminate in the outgroup, you turn the crosshairs within. So there is also obviously the whole initial mistreatment and otherizing of Arab Jews and the sterilization of Ethiopian Jews, the Yemenite children affair, obviously, the disappearance of Yemenite Jewish babies and toddlers of immigrants in newly found state of Israel from 1948 to 1954. The number of children affected ranges from 1,000 to 5,000. Majority of immigrants arriving in Israel during this period were from Yemen, with considerable numbers coming in from Iraq, Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, and the Balkans. According to low estimates, 1 in 8 children of the Yemenite families disappeared. Hundreds of documented statements made over the years by the parents of these infants allege that their children were removed from them. There have been allegations that no death certificates were issued and that parents did not receive information from Israeli and Jewish organizations as to what had happened to their infants. Israel does not acknowledge the Ugandan Jews and does not offer them citizenship. That's another one because they were converts and they're black. They're from Uganda. Not so fun fact, Jews from Yemen were stolen from their parents as babies and given to European Ashkenazi families to raise. Yeah, so they did a little bit of that as well. Like residential school style shit. Because the initial Ashkenazi, the initial Israeli society was also built around like making sure that Israel was European, right? It was a European colony, and that the fear. What was the term? What was the statement that Ben Gurion made about Arab Jews? Like that they're dust or something? Am I misremembering? Or was that Ben Gvir? Why would Ben Gvir say that? Ben Gvir is from fucking Iraq. He's Kurdish and Arab. What was the statement that he made? I can't remember now. He called them human dust. We Kurds don't claim him. Shut the fuck up. I mean, he is Kurdish. Sorry. It's just true. Kurds in the chat be like, nah, he's Turkish, bro. I swear. Nah, I heard Itamar Ben-Gvir was Turkish, actually. That's what many people are saying. Not me. Don't know where you got that from. Nah, he was not Kurdish, bro. He was actually Turkish, bro. Trust. Yeah, here is another one. Where is it? The Jewish Power Party lady. Someone in the chat brought it up, but that said, like, I'm a racist. If defending my country from African migration is racist, then I'm a racist. May Golan of the Jewish Power Party, which is Itamar Ben-Gvir's party, by the way. Jewish Power Party. Interesting. I wonder why they named it that. That's crazy. That's weird. Okay. All right. Whatever. Nothing to see here. Yeah. May Golan, Israel's self-proclaimed racist politician, nominated as New York Consul General. May Golan has insulted Africans in Israel and disparaged the Reform Movement, the largest Jewish denomination in the U.S. This is from 20th of April, 2023. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has nominated a far-right politician who once boasted that she is proud to be a racist as his country's top diplomat in New York. The appointment of May Golan, this is under the Brandon regime as well. The appointment of May Golan was swiftly denounced by Israeli and American former diplomats and the head of the largest Jewish denomination in the U.S. as an affront to the U.S. and damaging for Israel. A group of former Israeli ambassadors said they were shocked by the move. Golan's appointment is outrageous as she is a racist and divisive figure, which is the exact opposite from what Israel needs in such a critical place. Golan, who is a member of the Israeli parliament for Netanyahu's Likud party and a minister without portfolio in the current government, is a supporter of the ultra-nationalist faction in the ruling coalition that is attempting to curb the power of Israel's courts in what has been described as a judicial coup. Golan made a political name for herself by denouncing African refugees in Israel, calling them Muslim infiltrators, criminals, and rapists. She said many have AIDS, suggested they were spreading HIV by working as waiters, and demanded they be expelled from the country. If I am racist for wanting to defend my country and for wanting to protect my basic rights and security, then I am a proud racist, she said at a political rally in 2013 as a member of the far-right Jewish Power Party, a descendant of the Kach party that was outlawed under Israeli anti-terrorism laws. What would you say if I were to tell you that she is not even in the top 10 of most racist Israeli politicians currently active? What would you say if I were to tell you that she's not even the top 100 of all Israeli politicians, both active and inactive? Would that shock you? Would that come as a surprise to you? Yeah. This is not even a joke. The seventh most racist Israeli politician, both no longer currently active, literally idolizes Hitler. I forget his name now. That's not even a joke. There are Israeli politicians who have talked about Hitler in a positive way. It is not even a joke. You think I'm joking. I am not joking. Okay? Especially if you think about like the inactive, like former Israeli politicians that directly did actually collaborate with the Nazi party, you know? Because the early Zionists were way crazier, okay? Netanyahu himself is a Holocaust revisionist. He literally said Hitler didn't want to kill the Jews, which is an abject lie, okay? Like, that's just insane. These Watch Mojo lists are getting...
You're doing tax write-off for celebrities who lived and got their money inside America.
Here's Nancy Pelosi beside Zionist billionaire Haim Saban declaring that if the Capitol crumbled to the ground, Congress would still fork weapons over to Israel. We don't need the FBI to tell us she's a vehicle for foreign malign influence.
I have said to people when they ask me, if this Capitol crumbled to the ground, the one thing that would remain is our commitment to our aid. And I don't even call it aid, our cooperation with Israel. That's fundamental.
I mean, come on, dude. I think one of the craziest things that's taken place in this past year has been like a lot of things that I knew about that I couldn't just like point to because I knew that it was only fucking Nazis that would bring it up, like USS Liberty. 5 years ago, if someone was like, do you know about the USS Liberty? That would imply that that person you're talking to is probably a fucking Nazi. Doesn't matter that Israel did do that, okay? But like it's one of those things where there is like a permission structure that has opened up where you could just like be honest about how ridiculous this shit is. That's flawed logic. It doesn't matter. Human beings are not logical. Okay? They respond to stimuli. Some things you can say, some things you can't, even if it's fucking truthful. This is one of those things that you see in like, this is the type of shit that anti-Semites use in their anti-Semitism compilations, okay? Like this, just by virtue of like how 14p this video is probably in a compilation where then they'll interlace it with like some fucking rabid Kahanists that are talking about how like the goy are cattle or some shit to be like, see, this is what they think of Christians. You know what I mean? It's like, that's usually what you would normally see this kind of footage interlace with. Okay? The conspiracy edits, yeah. Yeah, as Felix consistently says, one of the funniest things that Nazis think is happening is that they assume that like the ultra-Orthodox community in New York is like the secret power brokers. They're not, okay? They don't even go to school, dog. They're not the secret power brokers, okay? That's not, he says they can't even do crack without scrutiny. Yeah, people being like, oh my God, they got tunnel systems. They got the Chabad tunnels. Like, Yeah, dude, let him smoke crack, okay? Let him smoke crack in the tunnels. That's what the tunnels are for. The Chabad tunnels are for crack smoking only, okay? And possibly a little bit of sexual intercourse too. Before 10/7, stuff like USS Liberty was niche info to know about. If you knew it, either you were a principled early anti-Zionist or you were a Nazi. Now it's widespread knowledge due to the genocide drawing attention and scrutiny to Israel in its past. That doesn't mean the Nazis won here. It means the anti-Zionists did. Yes. But Americans do have a tendency to believe, because of their lack of interest in like thinking about America's involvement in this, they have a tendency to look for some kind of secret conspiracy, and that, I'm fearful, pushes them in the direction not of like principled anti-Zionism, but instead of anti-Semitism. This is why I do what I do so consistently, regardless of how many of these supposedly Jewish advocacy groups consistently attack me and say I'm the arch nemesis of Jews in America. Because I'm very fearful that Americans, I know Americans, they're just like much more, they're much more easily duped by a narrative that conveniently creates a villain that they can point to. And it's much easier for them to think about it as like American politicians being blackmailed into this position instead of just being totally on board with this position, because America loves what Israel is doing.
To be
And they don't care about you. They don't give a shit about spending this money on you and your streets and your schools, and instead would perfectly fucking give it, would be perfectly happy giving it to the military-industrial complex and laundering it through the military-industrial complex to Israel. To be fair, it's not easy to come to terms with the fact that we are the bad guys in all this. It changed my whole world. I know. That's like the last hang-up. There's two hang-ups in this conversation that Americans cannot contend with. Number one, the scary Muslim barbaric rapist hordes are actually just simply operating on a totally understandable human desire of emancipation. And they're not just like reacting violently because they have like unlimited Jew hatred. Okay. That's number one. Most Americans simply cannot go above that point. They'll say what Israel's doing is horrible, it's violent, it's monstrous. But then also they'll always turn around and go, but Hamas, but Hamas, but Hamas, but Hamas. Okay, which is always like giving Israel permission to behave in the ways that it does. Maybe if it just like scales back the atrocity, you can just kind of look the other way and it's fine, right? It's not fine. The conditions that set up October 7 is not fine, okay? That's number one. Number two is America's involvement in this. America's involvement in this is so significant that we are the bad guys in this. Like, we just are. If you consider what Israel is doing to be a genocide and you think it's bad, then you either think American politicians are being bullied into submission and refusing to respond to their own fucking populations, own voters, because like there's a Jewish mind control or something, or you recognize that American politicians actually like what's going on and don't care about the atrocities. I'm a believer in the second thing, not the first. I don't think it's a secret Jewish mind control or Jewish blackmail or anything like that. Jew this, Jew that. Okay? No. I think it's America's own personal investment in the region and how much of a formative role Israel plays in that design. Have they allowed Israel to basically take over and direct American foreign policy in the Middle East? Absolutely. I would say that it accelerated after Barack Obama. I think Trump 1 was the definite kickstart of like Israel grabbing onto the wheel and just fucking moving the car around. Because people point to like George W. Bush, neocons, certainly, right? That was a lot of Israeli influence. There was a scale back from that in the Obama administration. But of course, our commitment to Israel was still solid, make no mistake. But Donald Trump accelerated that process so dramatically. Like, I think previous Republican and Democrat administrations would have most likely pulled the plug on all of this a long time ago. Not even for, how are you so sure there isn't any blackmail element to this? No, make no mistake. There is a blackmail element to this, but it's not as significant as you think. If you think that Israel or Mossad has literally fucking piss tapes or sex tapes of every single American congressperson, you're out of your fucking mind. No, that's not the case. There is plenty of blackmail that takes place for one reason or another. I'm not even like, and bribery takes place as well. Lobbying is obviously significant, but it's a combination of everything. It's a combination of all of that. But the most important factor here is the allowance that we have given Mossad to even operate on U.S. soil, or the allowance that we've given Israeli officials to operate on U.S. soil with impunity. That is not because of the blackmail. That is because of Israel's position as an incredibly important asset in America's foreign policy. Israel's position historically as an incredibly important asset as an anti-Soviet destabilizer at a time when pan-Arabic nationalism was taking root in this region, a region that was very important for trade, a region that was also resource rich with oil. Okay? That's it. If Israel as a unsinkable aircraft carrier in a resource rich region was not such an important part of America's initiative for the resource that runs the planet, okay, then we would not have allowed the Israeli espionage agencies to like even operate inside of America, or we would not have allowed Israel to have a sophisticated propaganda network that operates with no repercussions, with no pushback whatsoever on U.S. soil and in the Western world in general. That's it. I've said this before with the NRA. People love to point to the NRA to say that the NRA is the most powerful lobby in America. It's like the NRA is the reason why we have, no gun control. It's like there's truth to this, for sure. The NRA, first and foremost, is interested in conveying the profit incentives that the gun manufacturers have, and making sure that American politicians never step out of line. However, the NRA or even other gun lobbyists are not the reason why American politicians are so pro-gun. Okay? America is pro-gun. And therefore, the NRA is there to kick in with donations in times of importance when politicians feel like they have to respond, like in the aftermath of Sandy Hook. Okay? I remember I covered it. Like, there was, in the aftermath of Sandy Hook, Americans got together and there was a bipartisan bill that was pushed in Congress. Okay, it was, I think, Mike Crapo and the other guy, I forget who it is. Anyway, they put forward a bipartisan bill to universalize background checks. Okay, to just like stop some of these loopholes. Yes, in 2013, I was literally at the Young Turks, and there are videos of me from like 2014, 2015. And even in 2016, where I talk about this issue specifically. You can go find them if you want. Anyway, I was doing research at the time. But listen, when Sandy Hook happened, people were shocked. Okay? People were horrified. It was the closest that we ever got to any sort of reasonable gun control, or at least like moving in the direction of reasonable gun control. There was a bipartisan bill that was put forward that was supposed to expand background checks and close some of these loopholes for background checks. There was a lot of appetite for this amongst the population. Even NRA card-carrying members themselves wanted an expansion on background checks. But the NRA, with all of its money, went to every single congressperson and told them, do not vote for this bill. That's what lobbying is there for. At times when the public gets very angry about a particular thing and demands change, and politicians are forced to respond to it. But then lobbyists come in and say, don't do that. You're not supposed to do that. You can't do that. We gave you a lot of money. That's what lobbying is there for. It's there for that. It's there for writing legislation because politicians are lazy. They don't want to write it themselves. It's there for reading the legislation, you know. It's there to add additional provisions to legislation, like sneak it in. It's not universally there to like hypnotize politicians. And AIPAC works in a similar way. That's why you see sometimes congresspersons that don't get that much money from AIPAC that are still fucking firmly committed to Israel. Why is that the case? You know? Because no matter what, when you're Arab or you're Muslim, like you're biased. This was really funny. Hen Mazik post, horrific. An FSU student was attacked at the gym for wearing an IDF shirt. A Jewish student at Florida State University was just working out when a woman saw his IDF shirt and snapped. She screamed in his face, called him a murderer, and got physically aggressive before getting kicked out. This is Jewish life on campus. School is where students should focus on their education and growth, not be constantly on guard to avoid becoming the next victim of a hate crime. It's a hate crime because I'm wearing a SS uniform to the gym. Oh my God.
Fuck Israel, free Palestine, put it on fucking Barstool FSU. I really don't give a fuck. You're an ignorant fucking son of a bitch.
Look how scared he got. Yo, this person said she beasted on him. God damn. She did. She went, fuck you, free Palestine, fuck Israel. Hey, yo, that's crazy. He's like, what do you mean? I'm scared. I was just wearing my fucking SS brigade, dude. I was wearing my fucking Nazi banner. What is happening to me? Yeah, is the Caleb Pitts.
Well. Guess who just got kicked out of Starbucks for, you guessed it, being white?
This is literally this is a 1-to-1. Straight up 1-to-fucking-1. Or you can do the Daniel Henschel a bit as well, where he like dresses up as Hitler, and then he's like, I got punched again. Top responses. That's a terrorist organization that protests for the right to rape people, shoots people waiting in line for food, and targets refugee camps. They should be shunned everywhere. Yeah, it's so funny.
Fuck Israel, free Palestine, put it on fucking Barstool FSU. I really don't give a fuck. You're an ignorant fucking son of a bitch.
Exactly. That's funny. Hold on. I'm gonna fucking post that. I'm gonna repost that. I'm gonna repost Hen Mazik for the first time ever. Bro, it's like, what is this? Y'all, I'm sorry. I thought I could do Joker Hitler today, but I can't. I thought I was better, but I'm not. I feel so scared and alone. Oh, it's so good. Dan has reached a different level of comedy where he will, I think for the longest time he had a bit where he had a separate account that was constantly talking about how Dan Henschel has fallen off and he's no longer funny. Kodal Top, thank you for the 20 gifted. I go to FSU, they instantly suspended the girl from campus and are looking into criminal charges. I mean, of course. What did Randy Fine say? That he wants to eat her? I've worked with the university. She has been suspended pending expulsion and barred from campus. In Florida, we don't mess around. Of course. Like, this isn't like that one dude who was doing the fuck all Jews shit at the Barstool at the Barstool bar in Philadelphia. Like, this is a person that's kind of valid, you know? You're at the fucking gym literally repping IDF merch. Suck my dick. What do you mean? Oh, I'm sorry. People don't like that you're wearing the fucking merchandise of a Nazi army. Oh my God. What's next? Wow, this is really messed up. They're coming after me, a 20-year-old Rear Admiral General of the IDF, Attorney General Pam Bondi. Thank you, President McCullough, for your leadership and prompt action. Anti-Semitism will not be tolerated in Florida or anywhere else. Oh my God. They got the Attorney General on this? Bro, I'm sorry. This is fucking insane. Oh my God, this country sucks so much dick. Oh my God, this is the fucking stupidest country on the planet. It's getting to a point where if literally someone screams in your face that they love the genocide that's taking place, and you turn around and you say, maybe that's fucked up, you go to jail. Okay? Nope. Jail for you. You don't like Israel's genocide? What are you, anti-Semitic? You're going to fucking prison. Hope you like prison. This is ridiculous. This is fucking ridiculous, dude. Oh God, this country sucks so much ass. It's getting worse every fucking day, bro. I mean, it's not even a hypothetical. They literally did that to the Turkish American student, the Turkish student on a student visa who wrote an article about how fucked up it is that Israel is doing a genocide, and she was black bagged off the street. It's so goddamn cooked. It is so goddamn cooked. This country is so fucking cooked. Wait, there's an essay. Oh God, I'm not reading this. What the fuck? Senator Elisa Slotkin. Last night, I unfortunately missed a voter series on 2 joint resolutions of disapproval regarding the sale of weapons to Israel. All right, I'm done with the Bassem Youssef thing. I want to listen to Elisa Slotkin now. The key line of the third paragraph. What is this? What is? I owe it to my state to make it clear where I stand. Had I made it back for the vote yesterday, I would have voted yes to block offensive weapons to Israel based on my concerns over lack of food and medicine getting to civilians in Gaza. Oh, great. Thank you, Elisa Slotkin. Oops, you couldn't make it to that vote though, unfortunately. But if she did, she would have voted so hard. She would have voted so hard. It's just, fuck, I just missed it. I like that Colbert is, really calling to task these powerful elites that are taking his position away because of the interest that they have in, I guess, the interest that they have in like moving in a right-wing direction. And in an effort to do so, he has decided to talk to a former CIA analyst and yet again, one of the more conservative congresspersons in the Senate. Fucking fantastic. Thank you, Colbert. Yeah, tonight is Kamala Harris. It's great.
Yes, we were allowed to eat other hot dogs because we helped start Nathan's Hot Dogs, so a different type of hot dog.
Wow.
New York audience usually.
So this is a hot dog empire
Yes,
you
it
came
was-
from.
So
just hot dogs or all cased meats?
other cased meats and
Yes,
other
sausages,
products
brats?
and other things. No, not brats, not brats.
Okay, that's Wisconsin.
Right, but yeah, my great grandfather emigrated here through Ellis Island and started a small meat company and became a big meat company.
Well,
We're very proud.
you even hosted a Senate hot dog party for National Hot Dog Day.
I did.
Which is what day?
It's like the third.
Oh my God. Breaking Points really dropped the ball by not asking Senator Slotkin about her opinions on hot dogs versus sandwiches. Ha ha ha. In January 2024, she signed a letter criticizing South Africa's genocide case against Israel, calling it grossly unfounded. She clearly went on Colbert to do a cleanup job, but this comment section actually introduced me to the fantastic Breaking Points interview, which I never would have seen otherwise. Nice job. Shame Slotkin wasn't asked about hot dogs on Breaking Points. She could have shown that bold energy of hers. Amazing. The fact that this is one day later than after her train wreck interview on Breaking Points is such a jarringly clear example of why legacy media has record low trust, and you'll still get consultants paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to go and ponder with each other. Why is trust in our institutions failing, and what can we do about it? Shameless. These guys are not Hasanabi heads. These are YouTube commenters. This is crazy. I don't even know if I'm like that interested in what she has to say. Did she get asked about Israel or not?
You said in your intro, I own a very cool job.
When you were doing this kind of work, when you were over there in country, did senators and congresspeople come over and you would have to like tour them around and stuff?
Yes, actually, including some of them that are still there that I serve with
Wow,
now.
so you were the person saying...
I was like the baby analyst.
You'd meet them at the airport and bring them like, wow.
And give them the update on the field update on what was going on.
So what did they do that you will never do? Because
Senator Slotkin missed the vote on banning arms sales to Israel yesterday. Instead, she went on the Colbert Show where she called for aid to Gaza.
People have been losing for years, right? But to me, the responsibility...
I don't know. Are people drones? I feel like they are, right? There's no like unified front where people can just like gather information. So I guess like when they hear someone like her say like, oh, we really got to take care of the Gazan children, they go, oh, that's great. I'll remember that. She's a positive force. They don't know her background. They don't know her actual opinions. They don't know that she has been in direct opposition to any sort of like meaningful ceasefire. I mean, she literally she skipped out on the vote. She skipped out on the vote to deny weapons transfers to Israel because she was doing this fucking bullshit puff piece from a literal girl boss drone pilot. Yes. Also, Kamala Harris is to appear on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert tonight. This could be an adversarial interview with a very powerful person that gets to the heart of the Dems base, deep discuss with their party and the failures that led here. But he's probably just going to ask her stuff like, now is bacon really a spice? Come on now, while she cackles maniacally. He's just a late night host. What do you expect? Well, this is the one and only interview she has done since losing the presidential election. Do I wish she was getting interviewed by 1955 Edward R. Murrow? Sure. But this is who she chose, and we play the hand we are dealt. This was the other relevant clip from the Colbert interview. Oh, is this where she says they're corn-fed? A report, like Stephen Colbert literally doing PR for the fucking deep state is, or not the deep state, but like the CIA is insane. Like, what is happening, dude? What is going on? Of course, nobody fucking listens to this shit anymore. What are we doing? Child is like the moderate champion of the future Democrats. That's why she is seen as the #1 candidate for like the future direction of the party. If the Democratic Party had its way, and there wasn't this like pesky democratic process involved, okay, they would have a million Elisa Slotkins, like former CIA girl bosses who can at least like speak, you know what I mean? Who can like speak at least somewhat convincingly. That's it. It's that's the reason why they're propping her up. They're propping her up as like the girl boss that will lead the Democratic Party in the new direction. Why? Because she's younger and she is at least like somewhat telegenic. They are terrified of more Zorons propping up left and right. They do not want that shit. They do not want that at all. We had to do a coup in Chile. Otherwise, things would blow up here, okay? You don't understand. You don't understand. We have to topple people voting for socialist candidates and democratic socialist candidates or even social democratic candidates in countries that we have grand designs for. Otherwise, we would blow up. We would literally kill ourselves if we don't topple yet another fucking country, okay?
That Trump is going after them is just, it's particularly, first of all, it's nasty. Second of all, it's completely counter.
She's like, we had to torture Iraqis. Otherwise, America would blow up. And that's what I did. Y'all, I'm screaming, K-Hive, we are so up. Your Secret Service code name is Pioneer. You were the first woman in history to be elected Vice President of the United States. On July 21, 2024, your running mate Joe Biden announces that he will not be seeking re-election. The presidential election will occur on November 5th, 2024. You have 107 days. Y'all, I'm screaming, K-Hive, we are so up. That sounds like the opening to a freaking thriller. Former VP Kamala Harris announces new book called 107 Days About Our Failed 2024 Campaign. By the way, Patriots, trust the plan. I told you this is exactly what was going to happen, and it's happening, okay? I told you she's going to be quiet until she comes out and fucking does a book announcement, okay? And there it is. Classic. For the record, during the book announcement tomorrow, you will hear stuff from her that is very convincing, if you want to be convinced, that is, about how she thinks what Trump is doing in Gaza is unconscionable. Okay? For months on end, she did not say a single damn thing. Now she wants to sell the book. She's going to come out and she's going to say some pro-Palestinian shit. If you fucking fall for it, and I know a lot of liberals will, they're going to turn around and they're going to say, hey, Hassan, fuck you. See, we told you she was pro-Palestine. I'm letting you know right now. I am getting you geared up for all of the liberal wave. Liberals are going to be relentless. Not the loser manual. Anyway, very excited to see what this girl boss has to say.
Just over a year ago, I launched my campaign for President of the United States. 107 days, traveling the country, fighting for our future. The shortest presidential campaign in modern history. It was intense, high stakes, and deeply personal for me and for so many of you. Since leaving office, I've spent a lot of time reflecting on those days, talking with my team, my family, my friends, and pulling my thoughts together. In essence, writing a journal that is this book, 107 Days. With candor and reflection, I've written a behind-the-scenes account of that journey. I believe there's value in sharing what I saw, what I learned, and what I know it will take to move forward. In writing this book, one truth kept coming back to me. Sometimes the fight takes a while, but I remain full of hope, and I remain clear-eyed. I will never stop fighting to make our country reflect the very best of its ideals, always on behalf of the people. So thank you for being in this fight with me. I am forever grateful. And I cannot wait for you to read this, and I'll see you out there.
I'm telling you right now, okay? I'm telling you, here's my lock. Can't wait for Kamala, who has been noticeably absent from the convo on Israel's genocide, to say something subtly pro-Palestinian for all the blue MAGA folks to immediately scream at the left for being right. Blue and On is going to go crazy tomorrow. Step 1, go on the Stephen Colbert show. Step 2, say something subtly. Say something like a little bit pro-Palestinian, more so than usual, more so than you ever said. But then you also still obviously talk about how Hamas is responsible and Hamas is the reason why there's some problems with aid distribution, or she'll say something like Hamas can just end this by releasing the hostages, something like that. And then every single liberal is going to be like, this is crazy. This is Kamala Harris has once again did it. She girl bossed it. She actually fucking was pro-Palestinian all along, and you guys didn't want her to win because you're racist or something.
She can't talk. She can't do an interview. Nobody knew who Kamala was. Nobody knew her last name, Harris. I thought she was a terrible candidate. Look, don't forget, she didn't really get the nomination. I mean, that whole nomination was strange.
Talking about presidential physical.
I can't stand the 5. I hate them. If this is true, Hasanabi a Fed? No. I mean, I've been locking this from the jump. Abundance failed to win over the Atlanta Aunties. Do you think this will work, bringing that liberal core base? I don't know. I think there's a lot of love for some of the most loyal blue and on Fedayeen. So I think maybe. I think they'll be annoying. People will yell at them, and then they'll say, oh, you're racist, and there'll be more infighting. That's what I think. I think you're too harsh on liberals. We'll see. I was a total liberal at the start of the elections. Now I can't believe I was doubting you and dick riding her. I mean, you're in here. You're not the annoying pests that are going to be in here tomorrow when I'm reviewing the Kamala Harris interview. I hope I'm wrong. I'm just so cynical. I don't personally believe that liberals have a tendency to learn their lesson. Like, this is, I think, marginal. The people who think Kamala Harris is the rightful president of the United States are not happy about the prospect of a Harris 2028 run. Girl, you won the 2024 presidential election. Should have fought for it. A 2028 run? We don't want the old guard. I think she would have done a good job if she won, but I'm too disappointed by the lack of follow-up on election discrepancies. So, Stephen Colbert, 2028. Yeah, you'll see. Dude, I think the broader liberal audience, when I look at those like approval polls and shit, I see a lot of craziness. Liberals still have like Kamala Harris as one of the top contenders for 2028. I'm mixed about it because racism and sexism does play a huge part in why people don't like Kamala, but I see your point because co-signing genocide is wild. Yeah, I mean, I'm not discounting the fact that racism and sexism has played a role. It's just that she was also objectively not the type of person who could overcome it. I mean, guys, Zohran Kwame Mamdani. Okay? Zohran Kwame Mamdani. He has no roots. Like, at least Kamala is a black woman. She went to a historic black college. Okay? She has a built-in demographic to pull from that is still a very important voting bloc in American politics. Zohran is Muslim in fucking the city where 9/11 happened. Okay? And on top of that was anti-Israel. The reason why I'm mentioning that, but not a woman, of course. But the reason why I'm mentioning that, but AOC is a woman. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because these are real hurdles, okay? These are real hurdles. The problem is it takes a profoundly charismatic person to be able to overcome said hurdles in a country like the United States of America, okay? Kamala Harris did not have the capacity to overcome those hurdles. That was the problem. Because, like, you're already starting on not equal footing. You're a black woman, you're Asian, you're black. Like, there are a lot of Americans who are racist. There are a lot of Americans who are sexist. Okay? So that already is working against you. You have to be incredible with your messaging. You have to be incredibly charismatic. And on top of that, you have to have a solid message, right? Another example I always used with Kamala Harris was Claudia Sheinbaum. Claudia Sheinbaum is Jewish and a woman in Mexico. Okay, they're doing femicides over there. It's not like Mexico's more woke than the United States of fucking America. I mean, neither country is great when it comes to women's rights, but come on, right? And Claudia Sheinbaum, on top of that, is Jewish in a profoundly Christian country, okay? Overwhelmingly Christian country. And she had incredible popularity. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because she was following through on already pre-existing policies on a campaign from AMLO and the Moreno regime that was already incredibly powerful, incredibly popular. And she said she was only going to expand on the already expanding welfare state. I think you're underestimating white people. No, I'm not. My point is, I recognize that America is incredibly misogynistic and also incredibly anti-black. It's incredibly misogynistic and it's incredibly anti-black, 100%. So you have to fight extra hard. You have to overcome all of those issues if you want to win, in spite of those qualities. Kamala Harris was not capable of overcoming those hurdles. Don't you think the polls where no one is running yet are useless? No, they are. They are useless, but it still annoys me that she's still like the top candidate. Not only that, but the former administration that she was a part of was dead weight that she refused to fucking cut off. It was crazy. It was a spectacular L. It was an L fest, L after L. She went to the right on issues. She refused to acknowledge one of the most consequential foreign policy decisions that was ongoing, Israel's genocide and America's continuation of Israel's genocide. You can't win if you're literally saying, I'm going to be just like Joe Biden, perhaps the least popular president at that point, and also go against some of the key policies that Joe Biden ran on and won on, like being pro-immigration. Look where the immigration polls are at now. Thank God it flipped as I predicted it would. So now I can tell you, shut the fuck up. It would have always flipped if people were actually counter-messaging adequately. As I said Kamala should do, that she did not. That's it. Anyway, we'll get to that more tomorrow. I'm going to do the podcast now.
Damn, this guy's good.